Well, hello everybody. Welcome to the show today. Very happy to have you here. Hopefully you've had yourselves a good weekend. Mine was I worked. I mainly worked. Yeah. But that's okay.
Mm,
That's kind of normal for me. The past few weeks where I've actually kind of had weekends off is bizarre. I don't know what was going on with the world. Now it's normal. It's good. It's good. Yeah,
it's good. Yes, it's good.
it's good. Uh I have to. I would. Yeah, yeah. Saturday I worked all day, of course, but yeah, yesterday or your Sunday or your Saturday, but my Sunday, I worked on just creating a PowerPoint slide for my next lecture in Europe.
Oh my,
Yeah, those are
when's
fun.
that gonna be?
Oh, it's going to be great. It's coming up here in December,
Oh,
so I'll have some. So
wow.
we won't be able to do a Christmas thing because I will be
Oh,
in
well,
Europe. So
well, you could do it from Europe. I wonder how Christmassy Europe gets nowadays, being
eh, it will be
conquered land.
interesting to see. I'm not bringing my
Yeah,
wife with me this time.
yeah,
I'm not. I don't think it's safe. I'm a
yeah.
big, strong, strapping lad, though, so I'll be okay. And I'm
Where at in Europe?
armed with anthropology as well.
Yes. Where at in Europe?
Oh, we're going to Czech Republic,
Oh, okay. That's
Prague.
not that's probably fine.
Probably
Uh,
is.
yeah, stay out of Germany or France
My
or
wife's already
or
been there,
Britistan.
so
Yeah.
she's cool.
I would
Uh,
love to go to Prague. They've got some of the most unbelievable libraries over there.
yeah, I'm going to enjoy the
Humongous.
architecture for sure, but mainly they have
Yeah,
rock,
they do have rock.
Prague rock.
That's true.
That was a joke.
Yes. I got it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Let me anyway go over
Oh,
here and hit the like share button. Hopefully, you guys do the same. Let people know we're on. Once again, it gives me a phone number here. Telegram. It says Anelia. I don't know if that's a name. Psyche. She's really close to me. I can go find her and I can date-alate her. Oh, I'm sure she is. She's just like, whoa, this one is 3 miles away. I don't think so.
wow.
Yeah, for
Is this
sure.
on your browser or is it on your
Yeah,
computer?
I'm going to have to deal with it later.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I have
Uh-oh.
Bitdefender and it's doing its job, but this is coming through Monozilla. So I just got to go deal with it. I already checked the
Uh-oh.
Bitdefender. It's not on the computer at all, so it's just the browser. So I can deal with that. So and I will. Anyway, let's see here. I'm getting ad bombed for various ladies who are in Psyche, which I know they're not. I know all the foreigners within 150-mile range, and none of them are named Analia. The hell kind of name is that anyway?
Hi, Rosebud. I have a Rosebud on my lap. This is my cat, Rosebud.
Hello,
What is
Rosebud.
Chester, my wife would like to know what psyche means, the name.
Psyche is an old noble family from the area, quite a long time ago, before the whole Edo Jidai. And
Mhm.
what does it mean? I guess it means high river, maybe. Um,
He
but
says he
um,
thinks it means high river.
yeah. But you got to keep in mind, whereas of course everything has meaning, right? I mean,
Mhm.
everything has its meaning, its history, its etymology, of course. But here in Japan, they really don't care about these things.
Yeah.
And a lot of times things have, especially names, they just have a name because maybe the sound
Mm.
or the counting. They're not as into the importance of meaning with names. But then again, you got to keep in mind, it's only been 100 years or so since they've even had, family names.
Mhm.
They didn't have them. Only the royals and nobles had family names. Everybody else was called first son, second son, third son. I mean,
Right.
it's just Asia. So they're relatively new. Now, from an anthropological point of view, it's actually quite interesting to see how people chose their names. Because really, this started during the Meiji Restoration, which is after the black ships with Commodore Perry, right? But
Mhm.
it really didn't start rolling hard until Showa era, which is Hirohito for those of you guys listening. That emperor. But anyway,
Mhm.
so literally, when you walk around and see all these names in Japan, they're literally like 100 years only old, right? And of course, they're doing standard things people have always done. By the river, rice field that is good, or
Mhm.
some kind of nonsense like that. Oh, I got another one. Now it's Anna. Anna is in
Anna.
Psyche as well.
Yeah. A lot
Thank
of
you.
Annas
And
over in
Anna is
Japan too.
showing
Yeah.
me a pantied rear shot. I got the buttock.
Lovely.
I have the
Lovely. Is
vulva.
she a
That's very
white lady?
nice.
Is
She's
Anna a white lady?
tannish.
Mm.
I'm not.
Mm.
I'm good with that.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm
Yeah.
not the racist. I like the colored girls. Um,
Just the
depending.
girls though, right?
Yeah, yeah, just the girls. Yeah. But no, I mean, for me, I don't care about skin color. It's more about bone structure, facial bone structure. And I like a little bit of shape to my woman. I don't want a stick, which I'm surrounded
Yeah.
by 'em here. I don't want some fat ass, even though in America they seem to think that's sexy. Who told Americans that fat ass was
I
sexy?
don't know.
Please
I don't
help
know.
me.
Not me. I'll tell you that. See, I like a big round booty. I do. My
Well, an
wife's got a nice
athletic
big
one,
round
sure.
booty. But I don't there's a difference. There's a limit.
Oh,
Yeah.
here,
Like
sure.
a lot of these women are just well, they're fat.
Yeah, they
All it
are.
is.
They're fat, and that's cool. A lot of dudes like that. I don't have a problem with
Yeah.
that. I'm just saying that I don't understand why it's being pushed as a beauty point. Because like the Kardashian, what's her name, Kim. Now I don't want to take nothing away from them. They've played America as suckers, and they've made
Yeah.
millions out of it. So thumbs up.
Billions. They're billionaires.
Yeah, so good for them. Because they've played America as incredible suckers, right?
Yeah.
All the way to the bank. But Kim is not an attractive human. She's not. She's very plain Jane in her face, and she's absolutely like something. She has a tumor around her hip region. Now her sister or her niece or the Kylie one, the skinny one.
Kylie
She's
Jenner, yeah.
yeah, yeah, she's way more attractive. However, that's a nasty whore right there.
Yeah.
Stay away from
Oh, I
that,
can.
boys. Don't go. That's a pretty that's danger in a nice wrapping right there is what that is. And the funny thing is, you know who the Armenians are?
Mhm.
They're Armenian, right? Proud Armenians, right?
Well, I don't know how proud they are, but yes, they're
No,
Armenian.
well, yeah, they are. They go back to their homeland, they get cheered, and it's all weird to me because you got to understand, the Armenians are a Christian group.
Mhm.
They're what 97% Christian country, right? Armenia.
Mhm.
And but if we go back not too long ago, kind of like wartime, World War One particularly, you have the Armenians, the Greeks, and particularly the Assyrians, which no one talks about. These are all Christian groups, right? Especially with the Byzantines, right? We've talked about this before. But the Turks decided, the Ottomans, right? Decided, well, we're losing this war. Russia's kicking our ass. Might as well kill as many of these damn Christians as possible. Muslims and everything. And they
Mhm.
just killed ridiculous amounts. The only the but people only talk about the Armenians for some reason, even though they probably killed more. We don't really know, but they probably killed more Assyrians, to be honest with you. But
Mhm.
nevertheless, you have these people that went through freaking hell simply because they're religious. The country has used it as a shield and pride that we survived. We're Christians, and damn it, we'll stay Christians. Good on them. And here they have the most famous Armenians in the world are a bunch of whores.
Yeah.
Is this what we call irony?
A little bit.
A
A
little
little
bit,
ironic, yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah.
It's a little bit.
But
Um, but yeah, it's the strangest thing. But beyond that, for me personally, what I like, it's more about fitness and facial bone structure. Like yeah, I've seen some mulatto girls that are really pretty, but for the most part, black ladies' faces, it's like this alien skull to me. It's very unattractive.
yeah.
It,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I've said this on here before. My very first girlfriend I ever had was a half black, half white mixed girl.
Mulatto, yeah.
and yeah, she was very, very cute,
Oh,
very
yeah.
cute little thing.
Yeah.
Uh, but it's one of those things where the mixture sometimes it's great, and then other times it's oh my lord, what happened here?
Oh, that's true.
And
I think mulattoes tend to be more attractive in general, though. Yeah,
think so.
yeah, I believe so.
I would say two of the best ones that I've seen of the mixed races is probably white and Asian, specifically like Northeast Asian, not so much Southeast Asian. Um, and white people and Hispanics, even though they're basically the same thing.
mhm.
Um, like I mean, like dark Latino, Chicano, Hispanic, not
Right, right.
Spaniard who just live over here. Um, those seem to be the ones that blend the best, probably because their genetics are so close.
Maybe.
So
Yeah. That's interesting you say that because it's not actually true. I get the image of it though. I use mulatto, and keep in mind it just means young mule is what this word means, right? But it means mixed breed or half breed, right? It's Spanish word.
mm,
Now, a lot of people these days seem to specify it as white and black mix. That's not the intention. It just means half breed, and that's how I use it.
yeah,
A mulatto. My children are mulatto, right?
yeah.
But when you talk about closeness of genetics, when you take a white person and a black person, you can't get further away.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, we are distinctly distant from them. We're a lot closer related to the Asians, the Mongoloids.
I actually think if it wasn't for the fact that it would be massively politically incorrect,
Hmm.
there would be if we could actually have an honest conversation in science and in broad stream culture
Yeah.
about the eugenics and all these other things that
Oh yeah.
Hitler made no.
Well, not just
Um,
Hitler. A lot of
yeah.
Americans.
Well, those are now no words. You're not allowed to talk about them,
A
even
little
though they're
guy named
obviously
Marx.
true.
Marx was kind of into it too.
But if we could have this honest conversation, first we'd stop using the word race because that word is silly and doesn't mean anything anymore anyway. And we'd use breed because that's what we are. We're different breeds of human.
Yeah, it doesn't sound
And
as cool,
we
but
would
I get you. You're
understand
correct. Yeah.
I think we would understand and have a much more understanding dialogue when it comes to especially the sub-Saharan Africans and the Europeans because they're the same species, but they're damn close to not being. Like
Yeah, no, we're
it's
distinct.
silly.
That's true.
Yeah,
We and the Asians, the Caucasoids and the Mongoloids are very, very close, right?
yeah,
And we're very disparate from them. And there's a lot of genetic, this is genetics I'm talking about. Clearly, we can
yeah.
breed together. But it's I don't understand the problem with the conversation. We're just simply talking about
Oh,
mixing.
people get all in their feelings about it, bro. It
Why?
is silliness.
Why?
It's
Why?
silliness
What's there to get
because
upset
people
about?
are dumb. They're dumb children with
Yeah,
hurt
but
emotions.
where
That's why.
where's the upsetting point though? Like, point out what they're upset about,
Because
please.
it it comes
What
to either something Hitler and
Huh?
you want to kill these people, or
We're
it's an
not.
uncomfortable conversation
We're
for
talking about
certain
genetic
groups
makeup.
of
What do we
people.
get? What is Hitler coming into this for?
Well, because that's where their mind goes. They think you're talking about eugenics, which
Why would I talk about
again,
eugenics?
I wish we could
Oh,
as
I
a
guess we could,
culture.
but I mean, it
No,
doesn't
I'm
serve
talking like
much
as a
purpose.
culture. I'm talking like as a culture. If we talked about eugenics and eugenic marriage and eugenic forces, we could understand why, no matter where certain groups of people go in the world, they basically perform relatively the same in data, right? That
Oh,
we
sure.
can figure that out, and there's a reason for that. It's genetics, and you can
Oh no,
use
your
eugenics
DNA dominates
to
most of
fix
what
it.
you do. That's true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course it does. And you can use eugenics to fix it, or you can ignore eugenics to your own peril
Hmm.
and just let people do whatever the hell they
Yeah,
want, and then
but
you just get chaos.
I think people are missing a very important point. Humans are an extremely hybrid species.
Correct.
We're all hybrids. There are no
Correct.
pure the more innocuous term would be pure blood,
Yes.
right?
The the way that I think well you
I'm
not
sorry,
you as a
Grimlock. I said innocuous. How
people.
dare I even?
Uh, I think
what are
human
the
race
shaved apes upset about today?
Exactly.
I think the human race should do it, is we should look less to things like ethnic and ancestral heritage, race, or whatever you wanna call it, skin tone, these things,
Yeah.
and more to behavioral genetic behavioral causes, because we know we've done there's all sorts of data that proves that yes, bad behavior as we would understand it in basically every culture is genetic, and you
Sure.
can breed it out.
But good
Correct, you
behavior
can
is
get
too,
rid of
though.
it.
We can look at the other side of
Exactly.
it, right?
Exactly. So if we could have that conversation, we could institute actual policy to not necessarily force, I'm not talking about forcing anything, but to incentivize people having proper family structure, proper everything. And then we could also get these bad genes out of the gene pool one way or the other. Like
But
there's a lot of people who, they're against abortion. I'm one of them. But there is some benefits to abortion. One
oh,
of those
it's good that we
is
could do
that
it
the crime
safely. Yeah.
rate is way lower than it was 30, 40, 50 years ago because the people that are getting aborted are the ones who commit most of the
Mhm.
crime
Well, now
on
you're going
average.
back to Margaret Sanger and her eugenics program, called
Now, I am not endorsing it. I'm just
well,
saying there
Hillary Clinton is
is
a big
a
fan of it.
benefit to it.
Kill them
Yeah,
black
I know.
peoples. Kill them black
I would
babies.
much rather we have an honest conversation in America, especially. We'll stick to America for now
Mhm.
about what causes these things. It's not about these people are poor, their schools suck. That's all bullshit cope. What
Okay.
causes it is bad genetics. Period. And if we would go in there and say, all right, this person's done these things, you're not allowed to have kids anymore. You're done.
Oh
You're
wow.
done.
Now
And if
you
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 have
you
kids,
are going the nth degree
if
on the
you have
eugenics.
kids, you're a eunuch. You're done. Get out of here. Because we don't need these people. This is what the Europeans did just tangentially. They didn't necessarily have a concept of genetics and these things at the time,
Mhm.
but because they had such insanely strict punishments for every kind of crime you could imagine, including just hunting deer in some places,
Yeah.
um, it got rid of that sort of behavior. It's just no different than how we did with dogs, where we wanted dogs to be taller, or we wanted them to be shorter, or whatever the hell. So we bred that instead of breeding the other ones. I'm not saying you go through and necessarily force anybody to do anything, but you could easily rework the welfare state to incentivize the right people having children and
Mhm.
the wrong people not.
This has been
And
tried
that
several times and it ended up quite poor.
when was it tried? When did we pay people who are trash to never have children? Literally give them money to go get sterilized.
Well, they did it in the West with the Native Americans. They did it in China. It's taken place in North Korea. It's taken place in Burma. It's taken place in the Soviet Union, and of course, in initially in Nazi Germany. And then they just said "fuck that noise" and just started forcibly doing it. Which in each one of those other situations, we also saw them say "fuck it," and they just started forcibly doing it. So there
Yeah.
have been the initial ideas, pay them for it, has is happened many times. It's probably happened more times than we know. But I'm certainly not a fan of the idea of that. I understand the value of eugenics. I understand that we should be sensible to it, but I'm not in. I'm not in for sterilization. I mean, we wouldn't have a Grimlock.
Yeah, we would. Why
I don't.
wouldn't we?
I don't think he. I don't think he would have made it. He's
If we'd have had
he's an
sterilization, we wouldn't
urbanite.
have had Paris Hilton.
That's fair.
Mm,
That is fair.
that's true.
That is fair.
That's true.
Although
No,
Hilton's
I'm
have
just
money.
I just think we could if we could have a better conversation in the American discourse about it, without people immediately screaming something about Hitler, because that's what happens.
Well,
You can institute all sorts of policies. Doesn't even have to be pay them for it. There's other ways of doing it. Institute all sorts of policies that incent because right now we have it complete inverted. It's completely inverted. Right
mhm,
now, what we have is the dumbest people having as many kids as they want
mhm,
because the state will pay for it.
mhm.
Whereas the wealthier people, the upper middle class and the middle class, and the people who you would probably want to have children, the salt of the earth type people that keep all of society running,
Mhm.
a lot of them can't afford it. So they're
Well,
having maybe one, maybe two, and that ain't enough. They need to be having at least three, and
my
that's not
hand's up.
happening.
My hand's up. Just so
Go
you
ahead.
know. Oh, okay. Yeah. How about this though? How about an alternative that's less depressing? How about we have a set of laws that applies to everybody equally? We have a system that demands that the government and overarching agencies not get involved in anything to do with economics and let the market roll, and that we stand staunchly behind the concept of freedom of speech, and of course religion would fall into that as well, and the right of association, and therefore you can choose to do whatever you want or interact with whatever you want without any kind of governmental interaction of legality. Just let the social network work it out. For instance, if you don't want to make a gay cake, you don't make a gay cake, and then the society around you will judge you for that, positively or negatively. And we don't let the government get involved whatsoever. How about that? This might be a better
Well,
system that
sure.
would kind of work it out, because in the end, if you're causing noise, the system will boot you.
Here's the
I,
problem
I,
Surely,
with
I,
sir,
that.
you
I
speak madness, and we shan't be having that.
That's fine. I
Here's
got
the
another
problem with that.
Anna back, and this is a different Anna, and she is
Uh-oh.
smoking though.
There's a problem with that, Chester. We had that
I
system, and
think
it was
she's a bit young
corrupted by
though.
letting
That's not good.
women vote. Because what women vote for is socialism every time. Wherever they get the vote, they immediately implement socialism
Well,
within
because
20
that's
years.
their mentality, and that's
Of
not
course.
necessarily wrong. You just need the juxtaposition to that to have balance, right?
The problem is once you open the door, it never closes. And since it never closes, you just eventually regress to incentivizing the worst of the worst constantly reproducing. And as that happens, then they gain democratic control because you live in a pseudo democracy
Mhm.
where people get the right to vote, and it all falls apart. As the founders said would happen.
Yeah.
By the way, verbatim, they said all it will take is for one half of the country to realize they can vote the wealth of the other half of the country away, and it all falls apart.
Which is
And
why
that's
what I just
exactly what's
said
happening.
is important, because what I'm saying is you can't have a government that can do that, meaning there is no vote. You get rid of politicians. We have a set of laws, and that's it. Where it's done. We have no politicians. Government jobs
So
are
no
literally
democracy at
just
all.
jobs. Huh?
No democracy at all. No republic.
Nothing.
None of it.
Yeah, we don't need that. We don't need politicians. They serve no purpose. There's no
Well,
need for
that's
them.
true.
Well, if we have a set of laws that are all agreed upon, common law, then what do we need? If you steal something, I don't care the nuance of how you steal it. I don't need 55 laws to explain the nuance of your theft. You stole. Finished. Right? End of conversation. I had this thing with my son I was talking about, and I kind of put it to him, and it was nice to have a intellectual conversation with the boy. But then he brought up the point. Well, if you do that, what about this? And he held up his smartphone. What about the new, rules and new things with that? And I'm like, well, what new rule could a new technology possibly add to the situation? Explain. What new technology could possibly change anything beyond the concept of don't murder, don't steal, which includes rape, and don't defraud? I mean, that's all we need right there. Those three things.
I agree. I agree.
There's no new
Um,
technology, that even something we haven't imagined. There's no new technology that would not fall under these three rules.
I agree with you. There's just a problem. We have in America the world's largest underclass that has absolutely no desire to stop being the underclass.
Well,
If
that's
you cut
fine.
those people off, they die.
No, well, no, they won't. Some will, but
Most of them
they'll
will,
adapt. They'll adapt. It's not.
or they'll just become even more criminal than they already are.
Yeah, but then they get the law tamps it down. We have examples in just our history, the American history, that shows that it can work, right? Because there
Yes,
were
and
periods in our
every
history
time,
where we were functioning quite accurately.
correct. And every time, what happens is the underclass eventually becomes more and more of a problem, and they have to literally become authoritarian to crush them.
Which is why
Even
you remove
George
the vote
Washington
completely.
had to do that. Even George Washington, the first president, had to march with the army and go put down a rebellion.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. No, that's why you remove the vote completely. There are no politics in life. No more politicians. You get rid of it completely, and you just simply have the law.
Listen, I'm fine with these people I'm talking about all starving to death, but that's what's going to happen. I don't think you realize how bad it is in America.
No,
There is
because
a massive underclass of at least 50 million people, probably
yeah,
more
yeah.
than that,
Let
that literally survive off the government. They
let me
would die if you cut them off. I'm
let
telling
me
you.
explain to you what would happen because we've seen it happen before. Would you lose some? Of course you would. But in general, what you would see is the strength of the church come back through via its charity, right? Because it used to be the government did, there was a time not too long ago, ladies and gentlemen, that the American government did not, the income tax was extremely low because they were not involved in anything. This modern
Yep.
world you live in, where everything is micromanaged and taxed, is new. It's new. We didn't have this before, and
Correct.
the Christian the Christians and their charitable nature were the ones where everyone kind of leaned on, and that's kind of the point. It's like the government is not responsible for your safety. It's not responsible for your happiness. It's responsible for assuring that you have access to make it happen yourself. That's what it is responsible for. It's not actually directly responsible for your happiness, and this is one of the mistakes that Democrats and progressives make all the time. They think the government is responsible for people's welfare. This is not true. The government's responsibility is to assure an infrastructure that gives you an equal shot at the pursuit of happiness. Go read your Constitution, please. Why don't we? Now, this is another good point. When I was in school, I had to read that damnable book, frickin' Catcher in the Rye, right? And
Mhm.
many other books, and told me, "Oh, this is great." And I'm like, yeah, well, it's kind of boring, really, but whatever. Why wasn't I forced to read the Constitution of the United States of America? I wasn't. Why wasn't I?
No, no, I wasn't either. Uh, because they don't want you to know what's in there. That knowledge is power. They don't want you to know what your
Yeah.
rights are.
But the government has nothing to do with protecting your happiness. It has to do with protecting your opportunity.
I agree with you. We're in full agreement there.
Mhm.
But I'm living in a different situation than what you're talking about. What you're talking about would be the goal.
Hey, Edwin. Yeah.
Less government entirely. Until we can get there though, we got to do something to transition because if
Yes.
we don't, you're basically advocating for genocide. That's what you're doing.
Well,
Whether you know it or not, you're
let the
taking away
cards
these people's
fall where
ability.
they may.
There we go. That's what I was waiting for. So okay, so he is advocating for a soft genocide. Listen,
No, I'm just
I'm
saying
okay
that.
with it, but let's be honest about what we're saying here.
Well, I'm not responsible for your survival. You are, right?
But the government right now is because they said they would be.
Yeah,
They
and they're
signed a
wrong.
contract with
They're
the
wrong.
American people
We've
that
been
said they
on a
would be.
little, slightly over a century of wrong-headedness and wrong direction.
I
They are wrong.
I wholeheartedly agree with you. I don't take any money from the government. I'm just saying there are people who do, and they believe that they are 100%, and they're correct under the law as it is now, that they are 100% entitled to do so. And that is something that if no one will touch, by the way, no Republican or Democrat will ever touch entitlements because of this exact thing. If you take it from millions of these people, I'm telling you, they're going to starve to death. They're going
Well,
to die.
I think you
They're
would
that
see
lazy.
a huge resurgence in Christianity. I think you would see a huge amount of migration, and et cetera, et cetera. Would some people die? I mean, maybe, but then again, go back and look at the Great Depression, right? We had a complete collapse of the economic system in America. And for a good decade, in the court, and it's interesting. This war just came along. What a godsend that was. Whew, boy.
Mhm.
Um, but you had a huge chunk of the American population that was destitute. But yet, did we see massive die off?
Yeah,
No.
but that was different.
Why was it different?
That was a hun-
We
that was a
went
hundred
from
years ago with
affluence
almost
to absolute
entirely.
depression.
Let me tell you why. That was 100 years ago with the population that was almost entirely white. Now you have a population of a large portion of third worlders. You
Mhm.
have basically the same amount of black people as you did back then because
Okay,
they killed all their babies.
let me ask our resident black person a question then, if I might. Grimlock, do you like food?
Yes, but I get.
But what do you mean but? That's a yes or
Oh
no
wait,
question,
because
sir.
what? No, no, no. I'm saying yes, but I'm also agreeing with Thundaro because one thing that is massively different from the depression to now. is excuse me, the level of skill and ability in the average American.
That too.
The average American back then could fucking hunt, could fucking farm. There
That's
was
true.
there was way more of a farming agricultural population than there is currently.
Well, they tried to solve
Yep.
that with the
You
Christian
have
groups with the Boy Scouts, right?
yes, but you see because you've been away for quite some time.
I have 3 decades.
You have a significant portion of the population who, when the truck drivers was threatening to strike during COVID,
Hmm.
said they didn't give us stuff because we still got food at the grocery store. And I'm thinking, you matarats, who you think gets the fucking food to the grocery stores?
Oh, stupidity aside, yeah. But I'm
Yeah.
just talking
Yeah.
at the.
But that's it's on a huge it's on a much bigger scale than you realize, Chester.
Yeah.
You have people under the age of 30 that cannot boil water. They actually go to fucking Google and Reddit to figure out how to make
Chester,
ramen noodles.
What?
I want you to understand that these people, and I'm not making this up and I ain't picking on them, this is a fact. There is a large portion of them, at least 30, maybe 50% of them, who don't know how to put on a fitted bed sheet.
Oh,
Yes.
come on. That's just like common sense now. You don't need instruction. You can
It
just
ain't
figure it
common
out.
here no
Telling
more.
you, that's what we're dealing with over here.
No,
It ain't common here no more.
dude, you're talking about, retardation at an extreme level.
Yes. Yes. Their minds are their brains are broken. We've Grimlock and know of a young lady who literally was winded like she just ran a mile putting on a bed sheet. That's how out of shape she was. And she wasn't like big and fat. She just never did it before. She never had to. Her parents always did it for her.
But
So
she
she was
got
just
through it,
completely
right?
nailed it. Oh, eventually, yeah, with us there
Yeah,
to help her.
yeah. And she immediately went to bed afterwards.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, let me. That's a different conversation, but I'll give you a solution for this.
All
Um,
right, Chester. I'll give you one more. You
yeah,
seen that
Uh
cup
oh.
of instant noodles that's been on sale forever?
sure,
Yeah.
cup of noodle. Yeah.
Okay, so this week they announced that they are finally making cup of noodles microwavable by changing the materials of the cup. And millions of niggas in this country said it wasn't microwavable before.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, see, that's
That's
what
where
we're
we're at.
that's what we're trying to tell you what we're dealing with.
All right. Well,
If
Listen,
you
well,
cut
30
if
years
you cut
ago, I
these
would have agreed
motherfuckers
with
off
you.
from food stamps, they'll be dead in 2 weeks.
okay. Well, then
Yes.
here's your solution for that. Then there is an easy
Let
solution.
them die.
No,
I'm with that solution.
let's not. But no, now the education system should be dealing with it, but clearly it's not. So what you do,
Yeah.
and it honestly is something America should have done from the beginning, because we do have a draft in the United States of America. What
For
they
now.
should do is have a 2-year military service requirement for everyone.
I love it. I love what you're saying.
This would make sure your population is fit. It would make sure your population has a basic understanding of bed sheets, as well as other things. Uh, but I mean, and of course, it would make the country more ready
I, I,
because
I, I I have an even simpler solution. Ditch gender studies and these
Yep.
pseudo sciences. Bring back
Yep.
home ec and fucking PE and make it mandatory for everybody.
civics, things like that. No, that's what I mean. The school system used to deal with it, which is why we didn't need the draft during those periods because the school system was dealing with it. But if that's not the case and you can't get control of that, just simply institute a 2-year mandatory. It would be better for the country. It would be better for the country's fitness. It would be better for their education. Because military would
Yeah,
certainly
because
make sure you understood how to do a bed sheet, as well as other basic things like boiling
Have you
water.
oh, because if I was the drill sergeant, if you can't figure out the bed sheet in 2 years, guess where? You're not coming back. Not coming back here, fucker. To Iraq you go.
Well, that's
uh
fair. Yeah.
Hey, you won't have
so
to fold
Chester,
sheets in the sand, motherfucker.
The internal battlefield. I could get into a dissertation from a Roman general in regards to this very topic, by the way. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, incompetence. We have an incompetence
Well, no,
crisis in
he
America.
he was speaking on the value of the Legion to deal with the crippled mind is how he would refer that, how he would translate, and
Yeah.
he would often clean up the various provinces that he was kind of in charge of by simply taking the dullards and putting them on the front lines because there was always an eternal war.
So he cleaned up the gene pool without
He
realizing
did.
it. See,
No, he knew. He
somehow
knew.
we just keep coming back
He
to
knew
what
what
I'm
he was
saying.
doing. Keep in mind this eugenics thing everyone's going on about
No,
being modern. It ain't modern, dude.
no, no, it's not at all.
This has
They
been
they
around a
they
long
they
time.
just
But
didn't use that.
do you
They
think the
didn't use
word
that term.
gene
They
is
had
a
the blood.
new word?
No, 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 no. It's not
It's
new at
an
all.
ancient word. Matter of fact, if you all you those who stick to and love the Septuagint, which is called the King James Bible now, you go in there and there's like the first book. It's called Genesis.
Correct.
Yes, it's a pretty old word. They're talking about the genes, the essence of a thing, right? Now they're
One
talking
of
about
two
ISIS,
things is
but let's
gonna
not
have
get
to
into that.
give in America. See, Chester, you live in an amazing country, beautiful country that's homogenous for the most part. There's like 1% or 2% that's
Less
not
than,
Japanese.
less than, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. So when tragedy happens there, they actually take care of each other in a way that when we watch it, like when Fukushima happened, everybody in America was stunned. There was no looting, there was no
No,
trouble that we saw anyway. Maybe there
no,
was,
there
but we
was
didn't
no, there
see it.
wasn't. Why would there be? That just doesn't make any. Why
Here,
would there be?
if even a motherfucker, they riot over snow. Is what I'm saying to you. Like they're out here looting first. They're just looting to loot now. There's not even a reason. They just go in. They
Yeah,
hit the
but
big
those
big
are just
parties.
criminal people taking advantage of a situation.
Well, we
Um,
got to deal with those criminal people. Is my point. At
yeah,
some point, we're gonna have to start hurting these people or killing them. It's
police,
just that simple. There's too many of them.
judges,
We already have 3 million people in jail.
prisons.
They come out real. They go in and come out, and as soon as they come out, they just go right back to crime 80% of the time.
Well, that's because the
So,
judicial system is broken. That's fair.
well, it's because we're not killing them. That's why.
Or
I know it doesn't. I know it's
or
not nice. I
changing
know it
them.
doesn't sit well in most people's craw. But the reality of it is, the Western justice system is designed to have the death penalty. It always was, and it always will be, because there has to be ultimate consequences for ultimate evil. And that is how we've always designed it to be. Even Japan, who modeled a lot of their justice system off of ours, still has the death penalty
They
in many
still do.
cases.
Yeah, it's rare,
Yeah.
but they have it. But
Well, they
no, I
don't
mean,
need it,
but they
luckily.
don't need it. But I mean, if you look at it logically, I mean, just logically, you've
Yeah.
just had a disaster. Everyone is suffering equally, right? So,
Hmm.
what benefit do you get from stealing from your neighbor, from being disorderly, causing trouble? All you're doing is causing noise, which means things will
Yep.
not proceed efficiently. It's noisy. Don't be noisy. Be quiet so that we can all function as efficiently as possible. It's just basic logic. The Japanese are radically practical, right?
Correct. And they're a whole nation like that because they're
Yeah,
homogenous.
yeah,
America is not.
yeah.
We
I wasn't
have
surprised at all,
Chester,
but by that. But
how many
disparate
times
tribes
must
of
be
people.
explain this to you, old man? You're speaking logic to an illogical civilization. That
Yes,
shit
America
ain't gonna work.
long since abandoned it.
oh,
Yeah, we abandoned logic a long time ago. Um,
Analia is back. She lives
uh-oh.
near Psyche, and she has a cattail stuck up her buttock.
Oh God.
Uh-huh.
This is what we're dealing with. This is
Yeah,
what we're dealing with, Chester. This is America now.
yeah.
That's America
Well,
now in a
Yeah.
technically,
nutshell.
this is Persian. This is the Islamic. So, some reason the Islamic are selling sexy girls to Western people. I wonder why. I wonder
Well, they've been doing
why.
that since
That's
God,
weird. But it
2,000 years or so. They've been doing that.
I do have. It's a little teeny thumbnail I'm looking at here, but that looks rather uncomfortable. How long is she
It,
supposed to wear this cattail up her ass? That's unfortunate.
Mm.
listen, butt plugs exist, ladies and gentlemen, and some women wear them all day long.
Why?
So
Why would you do that?
they en-
That sounds very
they enjoy it.
uncomfortable. Why
They
would you
enjoy it.
enjoy that? What's enjoyable about that?
Nerve endings. I don't know. I don't stick things up my butt. I can't tell you.
Let's ask
Can't give me an
Grimlock.
honest
He'll
answer.
know. Oh,
He's not even
goodness
dignifying
gracious.
that with a response.
No, nor should he. Nor should he. But of course, these conversations and stuff are a bit extreme, but
Yep.
obviously there's a problem, and the problem needs to be fixed. And until society, the Western society, decides to sit down and fix it, you're going to continue having the problem. I'll give you an example I just saw. In America, of course, we have our own Christmas traditions. But the British have their Christmas traditions, which are tied very, very directly to Dickens, right? And which is fine. But every year, the department stores throughout Britain, there's a bunch of them, will come out with their Christmas commercials. They're a little bit longer than normal, but it's kind of like our tradition of Super Bowl commercials, right? We wait for them, and I don't know, I haven't seen recently, but they tend to be fun. Right, it's something we wait for every year. They do the same thing, but it's with Christmas commercials from the department stores. Well, this year, one of the biggest came out with a Christmas commercial. Just to explain what's going on, that was very anti-Christian. It was just bah humbug, 100%, and it was a bunch of
Yep.
rich elites and gays burning Christmas stuff and destroying Christmas because they don't want nothing to do with it anymore. This is their image of pro-Christmas, and in amongst it, they took the British Christmas wrappers, which for us, Christmas is green and red, and that's it, right? But for them, it's green, red, and silver are the colors of Christmas. And they took all the Christmas hats and the Christmas decorations and the Christmas poppers, right? And threw them into a fireplace in rebellion against this damn Christian thing. And they're all a bunch of rich people. Talk about out of touch. But whatever. Um, they threw it into the fire. And then what was the outrage that came out of Britain? Was it the fact that you have this department store shitting on Christmas, a bunch of rich elites shitting on Christmas? Or was it the fact that those colors combined kind of look like the Palestinian flag, and therefore you're anti-Palestinian? That
Oh
was the
Lord.
controversy. The second one. It's the second one. Not to delay it. At which, yeah, I am. That wasn't the intention. But how ironic that the big outrage to that wasn't the shitting on Christmas. It was the fact that it could possibly maybe look a little bit like a Palestinian flag.
I will
Yep,
leave
because
our entire thing with what you just said and everything we've been talking about with this. I agree with you. I want a classical liberal society as well. At least what most people understand. What they call the American system is classically liberal. It's not really, but that we'll go with that. I want that society as well. The problem is that sort of society is not enough to defend itself because if it was, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be in this circumstance we are now. So eventually, you're gonna have to resort to the bastards. The West was founded by bastards, not by good people, not by moral people, not by people who were doing the right thing, and they had the orders from God Himself. No, 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 no. These were bastard men who went and raped and pillaged and took anything they wanted and did whatever they wanted, and then they pulled back as they got a little older and decided to make it all fluffy and legitimate.
You talk
That's
about the
how the West
history of
was founded.
Islam.
I'm talking about the history of Europe especially,
Oh,
but yes, Islam too. Pretty
mm,
much the history of everywhere, to be honest. Bastard men who decided that they deserved more than their neighbor went and took it from their neighbor with force,
hmm
and eventually, over time, this became legitimized into governments, laws, states, everything else.
yeah, humans are awful. I agree. Um,
Eventually, you're gonna have to get back to that to ever return to something that looks similar to a classical liberal society. You're
I
just gonna
once
have
again,
to. There's
I
no
have to address the
what?
Corlac.
Uh
Sir,
oh.
I do not and refuse to understand the concept of sticking something up my ass. It does not sound fun. It does not sound comfortable. It sounds stupid.
Chester, diuretic
Things
confirmed.
come out of the ass, they don't go into the ass. It is the function of the ass.
That's actually true. Yeah, that is its purpose. That is quite literally its sole job is to excrete.
Yes,
That's it.
yes. I will stand behind this until the fires of hell fall across the plains, Ben.
It's coming.
Yes.
Coming.
You're not going to trick me.
But that's the other problem we have is you have a bunch of young people especially who are well, they're insane people, and they don't actually know what they believe. They're just full of hatred. And certain outlets online have allowed them to direct that hatred towards certain groups, whether that be Jewish people in Israel or white people in America.
Mhm.
These people are full of vim and venom, I'll call it. And they've come up with all sorts of different, rationalizations they pretend are science
Mhm.
to explain why it's okay for them to hate X, Y, or Z people, but not A, B, and C people, you see, because reasons. Uh, and there's no reconciling with this. The only way to reconcile with somebody who's that full of zealotry is either to literally deprogram them somehow, which nobody really wants that solution, or to just kill them because they're not going to stop. These people aren't just going to just,
Oh, we're
oh,
talking
oh,
about the
we were wrong
Palestinians, yeah.
and give up.
Well,
The Palestinians, the woke tards that support them for some reason, I think just because their skin color is brown. I don't know.
I'm
I
sure
have
that's
no
it.
idea.
That is it. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, it is just their
that
skin
sort of
color.
stuff. These
Well,
people are not going anywhere, and in fact, it seems like quite a lot of corporate America is on their side, which is amazing to me and kind of destroys the whole Zionist control the entire world narrative because
it
a
does.
lot of these organizations seem to be okay with it.
Well, I can explain on that, but first, I hate that I have to explain jokes, but the Hellfire Across the Plain was a Saladin quote to Richard the Lionhearted. Just
That is accurate. I forgot about
it
that.
was a
That's a good
deep cut.
That's a good
No,
quote.
no one, no.
It was a that was a deep history,
An
deep
I
ancient
feel
cut.
history cut.
lonely, Grimlock. But yeah. But as far as the corporate thing, you have to keep in mind that there are many, and they often take the form of, in the ultimate pinnacle, a bank, right? They're usually banks that are supporting all this stuff, but it could be corporations too. But just high money, let's just call it that. There are these high money organizations that are pursuing their own goals. Shocking. And some people call this conspiracy theory, which is weird. No, it's just a conspiracy to become richer and more powerful. But there are many of them, right? There's not one. This whole concept of people screaming,
Correct.
TFT on the on the head right now, of the Illuminati, the Rothschilds. They're just one group, right? And the American
That own
groups
Europe.
have been banging against the European groups since our inception. Go back and
That's right.
read George Washington talking about the Illuminati and how he would not allow them into the country. The American
Correct.
rich man groups have been banging against the European ones, and the Asian ones are involved, and the Middle Eastern ones are involved. I mean, all rich people want to stay rich. Shocking, I know, but there are many, many groups. Now, when we talk about the Zionist groups, which I find it interesting that these Palestinians and Middle Easterners are constantly screaming about the Zionists in Israel. It's like, please show me one, please, because I guarantee you, all the frickin' Zionists are living in Switzerland.
All the big ones, yeah.
Yeah, well,
Top
and
dogs.
they're not really. We could get into that, but I won't. But I've already covered it. But the thing is, there are many of these groups banging against each other. Some of them are Jewish, Zionists. Yes, some of them are Slavic. Some of them are English. Some of them are whatever America is. Some of them are Asians, right? And sometimes they work together because it serves their purpose, but sometimes they don't. So to understand why the corporate America is 100% behind this, where the American people aren't, we that's a long conversation, but they're not controlled by the Rothschilds. You do have some Americans that are, particularly politicians. They've done a good job getting in that avenue. Keep in mind that the Clintons, the Obamas, they are members of the Bilderberg Group, and the Bilderberg Group is simply the face of the Rothschild Group, right?
Right.
So we do have Zionist-controlled politicians in America. We do. But
Of
we
course.
also have a lot of other ones. Keep in mind, a little over 100 years ago, a bunch of those American bankers came together and said, hey, we've been cutting each other's throats here for a while. Why don't we come together and work together? And boy, was that a successful union. I mean, look what happened. They put in income tax. They put in social security systems later. They have had a radical successful control over America. Those people are not connected at all to the Zionists in
Yeah.
Switzerland at all. Matter of fact, they rather hate them. Right? So when you look at the corporate groups that are supporting this I stand with Palestine stuff, it's not shocking to me at all.
No, it's not shocking to me either.
Yeah.
Um, what's
Mm.
shocking to me is the ground level wokies, as we call them, lefties, that believe the Palestinians are their allies. Oh boy, are you in for a rude awakening? Um,
Well, they're fair weather allies, I'm sure.
well, they're allies in only the sense that they're hurting what they consider their enemies. But as soon as, let's say, they were to succeed,
Yeah.
very
Fair
quickly they would
weather.
learn otherwise. Yeah.
Well, you heard the
Um,
mullah just the other day come out and say that first they're going to destroy Israel, then they're going to take Spain back because that's theirs. What do they call that? Andalusia? Is that what they used to call
yeah.
it?
Yeah. Andalusia.
Something like that. They're going to take that back and then continue on from there. So we have these Muslim leaders. That was Iran speaking, but we have all of them. These religious leaders are talking about and this is something that I think a lot of morons don't understand. When they say from the river to the sea, they've changed it these days. They say from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. It's not what it used to be, but still, the concept from river to the sea. These people, a lot of these moron wokeites, I see them, and I see their little posters. They think the Palestinians and the Muslims are talking about Gaza.
Yeah.
That's how stupid they are. That they don't even
Yeah.
understand. They're not talking about Gaza at all. They already control Gaza. They already have Gaza. They're talking about Israel. That's what from the river to the sea means, to remove the Israelis. That's the occupied
Correct.
land. It's not Gaza. It's not Judea. It's Israel. That's what they're talking about. But they're not going to stop there. Listen to what they say. Listen to their words. They might be telling you what they want. They will continue doing this. They have said it many times. October 7th is just the beginning. We will do it over and over and over and over again until the Jews leave. It's very simple. We will take back Spain. We will take back the entire planet because it is ours. Because here's the thing. If you listen to one moron that stands up and tells you that Islam is a religion of peace, slap them straight across the face. Seriously.
No,
There's
it's a
nothing
conquest.
peaceful about Islam. It's not a religion of peace. It is a religion of war. It is that simple. And even now, the hadith are disgusting. The life of Muhammad is disgusting. But that aside, just the Quran itself, just that little book. And there are a lot of Muslims in the world that don't read the hadith. They only read the Quran because this is something that another thing people don't understand because they haven't read the Quran. You realize how many times would you guess that the name Muhammad comes up in the Quran?
I don't know.
Guess. How many times does
Oh,
Jesus come up? I mean,
I think Jesus
several
comes up more than
thousand.
Mohammed.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. He's very,
Jesus is mentioned
very well
all the
spoken of.
time.
Yes. Yes.
And if you
Correct.
include the word Messiah, then it's a whole bunch more. But I'll tell you how
Yeah.
many times Muhammad shows up in the Quran. 4 times. 4.
Good old four.
Mhm. And in those references, at least 2 of them are talking about a different Muhammad. So
Oh.
realistically, the Muhammad that they all hold up is only mentioned twice in the Quran,
Yeah.
right? And then we get into all the same nonsense we get from the Septuagint. For instance, Jesus the Nazarene. There was no Nazareth at that time. Jesus. There was no Galilee at that time. He wasn't in Galilee. He's a Galilean. He's a Nazarene. He's not from a
Yeah.
place called Nazareth. They didn't exist. Same with Muhammad. Mecca was not a thing. There was no Mecca. It's absolutely ridiculous. He's from Petra. You fucks. It
Yeah.
pisses me off, dude. We have all the information, but there's morons. He's not from Mecca. He's from Petra. He's a Petran, which is in Jordan.
And yes, I've been there. Uh, or no, I
Sorry,
was
I
gonna
got a
go
little
there, and
upset there for a
they
second.
they had it shut down that day, and that pissed me off. We were
Couldn't
going
tell.
there.
The Rose City, right?
Yep.
Oh my God, these people, dude. But I mean, if you read the Quran, um, first of all, Muhammad's involvement in it, because there is a servant that is going around, the servant, the servant. We don't really know who the servant is. If you do a little bit historical, etymological breakdown, it very well might be just talking about Jesus. But whatever, it talks about the servant. But in there, just like in the Torah, there is a lot of calls for God to kill the enemy. Let's not
Yes.
forget how many people the Israelis, the Hebrews, murderlated in the Old Testament.
Oh
God
yeah.
was
Full
calling on
full
them to kill people left and right. The
full
Ammonites,
genocide.
full genocides all the time. The Quran is full of the same shit, right? Now, the
Yeah.
Jews over time have, relaxed a bit. The
Left.
Christians are frickin' hippies. Good on them for that,
Ugh.
I guess.
Ugh.
But the Muslims, these Islamists, are in full old school war, kill the enemy. It is not a religion of peace. It's never been a religion of peace. I hope one day it can be, but it's not. They are a
No.
war religion, and they are showing it to you every day of your life that you've existed. There have been Muslims murdering people every day of your life, every day of your entire existence. Islamists have murdered people. The only good thing about it is the fact that most of the people they kill are other fucking Islamists. Every day of
So
your
no,
life.
so no points for consistency. Yeah.
No, they get 100 points for consistency. They are very consistent. They murder. But it just pisses me off. I hear these people keep saying Islam is a religion of peace. Fuck you.
What's funny is I saw some dummy on Twitter who I don't think is one of these TDS, Trump and Russia stole the election, that bullshit guy, said that Russia is our civilizational enemy. Russia, the Christian nation of Russia, is our civilizational enemy. And I just went, have you ever read a history book? Because I'm pretty sure, let me check. Wait, yep, Islam. Pretty sure it's been Islam since day one, since Islam was Islam.
And to
They've been
be fair,
murdering Westerners since and raping them and enslaving them and doing all sorts of nonsense to them since they showed up.
well, and to be
So
So
fair,
you're
the
saying,
Russians,
so you're
the
saying the
Russians have done a
Crusades
good
had
part.
nothing to do with Russia.
Well, no, the Russians
correct.
have done their fair share of keeping the plague out. They have.
That's true. Yes.
But no,
Yes.
that's a Europe. That once again, European concepts. I don't understand why so many Americans want to stick with the European concepts. We're not Europeans. We left there for a reason. Everyone in America left Europe for a fucking reason, dude. Right? We're not Europeans. We don't have their sensibilities. We don't agree with the things they do. And we certainly don't have to automatically hate Russia just because they have always hated Russia, right? Because it's
Which is
always been their
weird.
threat. It's not us. We should be friends with Russia. Now, you can say
I agree.
Putin is a megalomaniac, he's a tyrant, stuff like that, and there's truth to it, right? But it doesn't matter. We have we have political and economic relationships with tyrants all over the world. Why
Yes.
not Russia?
I don't know. I genuinely don't know because it's not
I'm a
like
little
they're a
pissed
threat.
off today. Sorry.
I see that. It's not like they're really a threat anymore. They're not. Would I say they're not a threat? Yeah, if we went into Russia and tried to fight them over there, sure, that'd be a problem. But other than that, I really don't believe Russia has the capability to launch genuine full scale war on multiple fronts
No,
like
they
they
don't.
could have
They don't.
50 years ago.
No, they don't.
They just
And,
don't.
and honestly, I don't think they had it at that time either. It would be
Probably
hard
not.
to hold air superiority against them. We're starting to
Yes.
see some interaction between the Russian planes and the American planes, which has been a wonder for quite a while. How would they stack up? The Russian ones are kicking the American ones' ass, unfortunately, because that's been a
Well,
that well that's been a wonder for quite a while. How would our jets stack up to theirs? Because on paper they both have strengths and weaknesses, right? But it turns out the
yeah.
Russian ones seem to be better. So having superiority over the Russians would be difficult. But you're right; they don't have the reach, right? And honestly, they're going to speak politically in any way that they have to. But I just don't think that Russia really wants any part of any of this nonsense, to be honest with you. And neither does China. They're not interested. They're economic warriors. They're not real warriors.
Right. Well, my point is, I am in full agreement with you, and I have been for years. It doesn't make any sense to me why Russia's still our enemy, quote unquote,
Yeah, it's
or
weird.
whatever they call them. There's that this idea that this guy was putting forth that Russia's our civilizational enemy because I'm guessing something to do with the Soviet Union. That's just
Well,
historically
it goes
stupid.
back deeper, way well before that. But once again, it's a European sensibility. It's not an American one.
Even still, the Russians are a deeply Christian country
Oh yeah.
of the oldest form, well, the second old, well, probably third oldest form of Christianity, the largest form of Christianity that is not Catholic. Uh, these are not our enemy. They might be our rival, they might be our opponent
Oh
in
sure.
many
Economically, yeah.
situations, but our enemy has been for the last 1,200 or so years Islam. Millions
Oh
and
yeah.
millions and millions, hundreds of millions of people have died to stop the spread of Islam all over
No.
the world.
Islam is the
America's
enemy. Yeah.
first transatlantic war was against Islam.
hmm hmm Yeah, but no, the nonsense with Russia is just that nonsense. And when you get to Western Russia, which is what most people envision of Russia, they are extremely, or Byzantine, right? Christians. But when you get into the further eastern reaches of Russia, you get a lot of Muslims, and they all kind of get along. They're not really banging at each other all the time, right? So they found some kind of neutrality amongst themselves. Right? Now, to be fair, the provinces of Russia do operate more like American states, where they're quite independent and responsible for their own success. So that is, I think, an important thing to look at, and they tend to segregate themselves. Like if you go to Dagestan and you're a Christian, you're probably okay, but don't go there and be a Jew. Probably
Well,
bad idea. Yeah, probably a bad idea.
know. Honestly, it's a bad idea to be a religious minority in just about every country on the
That's
planet.
true. That is true. Yeah. But I'm just saying, no, the whole thing with Russia is ridiculous. There's no need for it. We can easily have proper relations with them. Just because you might not like a leader, so what? A lot of people in the world hated Trump. Does that mean it make America evil and we can't do business with America?
A
Right?
Yes.
lot of people in the world don't like Biden.
Well, I don't know if they don't like Biden. They just all realize he's a senile fool. That's
Pretty
a bit
much.
of a joke. Another thing on an aside. This
Uh-oh.
fella Blinken.
Yeah.
Now I don't know where he's coming from. I don't know who he is. He is a Jew, and the one speech he gave about him being a Jew and standing with Israel was pretty good. Good for him. But I don't know anything about this guy. But the one thing I do know is every time I see him, he looks terrified.
Yes.
Right now, he probably isn't. It's just probably his face, right?
Yeah.
But every time I see him, he looks buggy and terrified. And one of the funniest things that made me laugh, we had him and the president, because Israel has a president as well as a prime minister. It's one of those dumb places, right? Um,
Yeah.
and of course, the president has no power. Netanyahu's the man, right? But
Right.
this president is up there, and he's a twitchy, bug-eyed guy too. So you have two twitchy, bug-eyed guys up there talking. They both look terrified. They both look awkward. It's like the worst freaking camera shot you could ever possibly have. But I'm like, someone please pull Blinken back. He could be a great guy for all I know. I don't know nothing about him. But you pull him back, put him behind a desk somewhere, and give us a freaking bulldog, please. He's the Secretary of State, for goodness sake. We often put women in those positions because they come off a little softer. But if you think of, say, Madeleine Albright, right, who you can like her politically or not, doesn't matter. You don't fuck with Madeleine Albright, dude.
Yeah. The
No,
Iron
you
Lady.
never get that feel off of her. She's a
Yeah.
bulldog, right? And that's what you need in that position. This guy looks terrified, constantly terrified, always looking around, bug-eyed. It's like, what the hell is this? And we got a freaking senile damn president and a bug-eyed Secretary of State.
It's America for you. That's it. That's what we've become.
It's out of control. We need.
Wasn't
We went.
Blinken the blind guy from Robin Hood Men in Tights?
Oh
Yes.
my.
Yes, that was his name, Blinken, yes.
Cap Canada, everyone loves Trudeau. We know that's a lie. Yeah,
Yeah, everybody.
we know
I
that's a
I
lie.
I sure do. I'll
Yeah,
tell you what.
let me give you a bouquet of flowers for that one, sir. No, I'm not. You're not allowed to do that. You can only do it
You mean
online.
you mean
Stupid.
you
Okay, fine.
mean you mean to tell me that the what I got on good word from Canadians that the Canadians do not love Trudeau and they do not go out in mass wearing blackface on his birthday?
No, that would be great if that was true. Yeah. Now he's a very classic, a Marxist.
Communist?
He's a very classic communist. And Canada's paying for it. But we'll see if because keep in mind he's technically shouldn't be the prime minister right now. He lost, but they made a deal where he stays in power for a certain amount of years. I don't understand this deal. Why would you make a deal? You won, take the power back. Get rid of the enemy, right? But
Well, they didn't win by enough or something. I don't know. It's a stupid
no, there was
European
some deal
system,
made.
Canada.
But
Yeah,
it's like ridiculous. This guy is an absolute moron. Biden might well be senile. Fair enough.
yeah,
But Trudeau's a moron. He's a fool. And we see
right.
many of these foolish leaders around the world. It's not just Canada. We see a lot of them. And of course, this gives your intelligent, tyrannical type of leaders this feeling of opportunity, like Putin.
Mhm.
That's a smart dude. You can hate him all you want, but don't you underestimate that guy.
No, he's brilliant.
That dude is
No doubt
smart.
about it.
Do not mess with that
Yeah.
guy. Think about it,
Unlike
right?
Winnie the Pooh, who's oof,
Oh, he's brilliant. He looks bored all the time. I get it. But that guy
yeah,
is full on murderous tyrant.
yes.
He's cleaning house right now. Have you noticed?
Of course.
All the higher
Well, they
leadership are dying mysteriously.
the problem is in those sorts of houses, they continuously seem to get dirty, so
Mhm.
it's just an endless process of cleaning over there.
Yeah, well, China is in real serious problem right now, and which is why she is pulling more and more deep into the Maoism, deeper into isolation, xenophobia, closing the country down because he's losing power. He has to isolate it to keep his power. It's the same thing with Mao. Now the difference between she is not a smart man as far as book worthy, right? But he is shrewd, right?
Cunning.
So he does have one advantage over Mao because Mao was just slap stupid. I mean,
Yeah.
pure, shockingly stupid human, and it tells you a lot about China at that time. Because keep in mind, everything Mao did, every single thing that Mao Zedong did, failed. He had
Yep.
zero successes. She at least has
Utter
had a
failure.
few, but everything failed. But keep in mind, you know how she came to power?
I don't.
He's the one that got and hosted the Chinese Olympics. That's how
Oh.
he came to power, right? Because the dude before him and the dude before that were much more about opening up China and becoming an economic powerhouse and becoming more part of the world. Now, the last guy, the only opposition left in China to him, just mysteriously died of a heart attack at the age of 62.
Yep.
Yeah,
Hard tech gun.
yeah,
Look it up. It's
yeah.
real.
Yeah. But whatever. China is a different issue, which is once again, why all this nonsense of people saying China's got to get in the one now. China ain't they got a lot of problems. The same thing with Lebanon. This is why you have because the Lebanese government wants nothing to do with what's happening in Israel. Hezbollah does, but the problem is Hezbollah has more power than the Lebanese government right now, right?
Right.
And they're desperate to get into it. The problem is Lebanon is on its knees. It is absolutely devastated economically. I
Yep.
think people don't realize how bad it is in Lebanon right now. It's really, really bad. They cannot afford a war with anybody, right? They
Yep.
can't. And sometimes war can be good for a country that's poor. In this situation, it's not, right? But this is why they just sputter off a couple of missiles every day. Now, personally, I think Israel should just smash the shit out of them because there's a couple of southern cities there that are pure Hezbollah, just level them to the ground. But they want to focus on Hamas, and they just deal with a few missiles every day, right? That's what they do,
Yep.
but they're letting them go. And this also shows you that how much full of shit Biden is, and his administration, because they said that they sent those ships into the area to make sure no one else gets involved. Lebanon's getting involved. Why aren't we freaking taxing them, dude? Why aren't we? You said you were going to. What's up, Biden or Biden's
Well,
administration? What's up?
well, it's because they know the American people absolutely do not support this move in any way, and they
What, to smash Lebanon for missiling Israel? I
just
bet
any
you a
of it,
lot of America.
any of it. The vast majority of Americans want nothing to do with it, especially young Americans who are the ones that are going to have to go ask to fight. I wanted to say this earlier. We were talking about a draft. The problem will be is right now, especially, they can't even recruit people.
Yeah,
They
but
are
a
having a
draft is not
massive
recruitment.
problem. Yeah, well, yes, it is because all they have to do, enough people say no. What are you going to do?
Arrest them.
And yeah, and then people get shot and murdered. Like, I'm not going to die for this government. They can suck both sides of my dick. There
Yeah,
is
I know what
no
you're meaning, but yeah, I get
there
you.
is nothing that could happen today. I don't care if America's attacked. I am not fighting for the United States government. I'll
I'm
fight for my
talking about
home.
a righteous reformation, is what I meant.
Yeah, well, first you're gonna have to prune the hedges. We got to pull some weeds out first. It's just the reality of it. We've had probably 10 million people in the last 3 years cross our southern border. These
Yeah.
people have, by and large, IQs in the 80 range. These are not people who belong in a modern republic.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
I'm sorry
You
he
can you,
called your
you
people
sugarcoat it.
weeds, Grimlock.
Not Grimlock's people. His people been here. They've been here a minute. But the reality of it is, that's the reality of it. What's happening on our southern border is just one facet of this competency crisis that's only going to get worse.
Yeah.
You know how these trains and stuff keep derailing and planes keep falling out of the sky and all this nonsense keeps happening, or they just disappear, planes just disappear, which has always happened to some degree. But I honestly think we're on the verge of seeing just civilizational collapse like we have never seen, well, at least not, definitely haven't seen in America since America's existed,
Ah,
but that we
that's
haven't
why you
seen in
had
a
the
very,
Elon
very long
Musk
time.
picture, because he believes that too.
Oh,
Yeah, maybe,
absolutely, and
maybe.
there's no doubt about it. Unless
You know,
something changes demographically very, very, very quickly, it will happen. It's not a matter of what we want. It absolutely will happen. A
right.
demographic collapse. It's already happening in China. You're talking about China's problems.
Oh
That's
yeah, they're
China's
having
problem.
real problems. Yeah,
Demographics are a mess.
the demographics,
Uh,
their economics is really bad. The interesting
because
thing when you
nobody
mentioned,
was at the gate protecting the gene pool. I'm just to say it. That's the truth of it. We had accidentally, for the most part, but also intentionally to some degree, people at the gate protecting the gene pool, keeping out the riffraff. There was a good reason why only like 20% of men had children, something like that, 20-30% of men, and the rest didn't.
27%.
Yeah, there's a reason for that, and that was because they were the quality men, and that was a good thing,
Right.
believe it or not. I know that
Well,
some men don't want to hear it, but it's the truth.
standard human
You don't
nature. Yeah.
deserve
Well,
you don't deserve a woman.
it's interesting you talk about the intelligence of certain peoples. We know that
Yep,
Mesoamerica is really bad, right?
it is.
And they have a situation where they do have education systems in place, but it doesn't seem to
Yep.
be helping. Whereas the Middle
No.
East is more shocking to me because they have an extremely low IQ overall in the
Yeah.
Middle East, and we know that they traditionally are way smarter than that. Some
Yeah.
of the
I mean,
great
they were.
innovations and
Yep.
and minds of our history come out of the Middle East, right?
Well,
So
what's up?
well, what's up is that a huge chunk of those kids grow up studying only the Quran. That's all they
Correct.
read because that's all they need, they say. And then when they get old
Well,
enough, they apprenticeship into something like carpentry, electrician, and they learn that. But they don't get the kind of education that a Western kid gets. They get the Quran. They study the Quran all day. And it's fair play. A lot of Jews, especially the Orthodox, the Hasidic Jews around the world, they're very similar. They spend so much of their day in Bible study, so much of it. Many places in the world, the Jews get paid to study the holy books. Did you know this?
yes. I
Yeah.
did.
So
Um,
when we talk about
it
intelligence, it doesn't have to be low, but it is.
it's also the inbreeding. That's a problem.
It can
Uh,
be. Yeah.
that's a big, 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 big problem over there in the Middle East. I think if I remember right, it was Pakistan. Something like 80% of them are first generation cousin marriages situation.
Oh,
Something like
I'm
some
sure that's
crazy thing
possible.
like that.
The caste system kind of spilled
Yeah.
over into the Islamist. Yeah. But now this is a very good thing you just mentioned with Pakistan. Keep in mind, Pakistan just like yesterday started a campaign and they went into these Afghani refugees that came into Pakistan, right? They went
Yep.
into their little mud hut town because Afghanis are mud hut people, right? Let's be fair. Gaza is a modern, sophisticated society. It's not the same, right? But anyway, the Pakistanis sent in soldiers and bulldozers and has bulldozed all their little towns. They didn't tell them nothing, didn't give them notice, just came in and bulldozed it all, and they're going to push 2 million people back into Afghanistan. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, let's think of our lifetime. How many Muslims have been murdered by Muslims
Oh God. Who
in
knows?
various genocides in our lifetime? Would you like to kind of put a guess at a number?
I'll throw out probably around 50 million. Got to be somewhere in that ballpark.
Well, I don't think it's
And
that
well,
that high, but it
if we're
is
including your
millions.
lifetime,
My
if we're
lifetime.
including your lifetime, I'd
Millions.
say almost 50 million. Yeah. And the reason I'd say that
Millions
is
and millions and
because
millions.
if you include ISIS, especially, we don't even know. With
That's true,
probably at least 10 million right there. I
right?
mean, it was brutal. People have already forgotten ISIS for the
Yeah,
most
no,
part,
it's
but it
kind of
was
ridiculous. But I
brutal.
mean, just take this into mind. We see what Pakistan's doing. It's the same thing Arabs have been doing forever, right?
Yeah.
Because they're very sectarian, right? And it's not about they're not Islam, happy Islam together. They're not. They're different sects and they hate each other. But keep in mind that just in the past decade, we've seen millions of Arabs displaced and killed by other Arabs, other Muslims, right?
Yep.
And not once did I see a rally in a city square. Not once did I see a flag raised. Not once did I see any protest about what the Saudis have done to the Yemenis, of what the Iranians have done to everyone around them, what the Iraqis done, what the Afghanis have done, what the Pakistanis have done. We have not one flag went up, not one. Then
Yeah.
all of a sudden the Jews push back against an absolute depraved action, and now the flags go up. Wonder why?
Well, there's a few reasons. One is people don't like Israel,
Yeah,
just as a
why?
baseline.
For me, the
Very
word is hate.
well, that's an easy word. The other word is the other reason is because people see Israel as an extension of the West, and it is.
It
That's
is.
that's what it is.
It is.
Uh,
Yeah.
so it's easy to hate the. You're allowed to hate the West. You see, that's permitted. You can hate the West. You can hate Europeans. You can hate white people in America. That's all fine. To the point where I posted a video earlier of people were upset that somebody had a sign up somewhere. I don't remember where. Somewhere in America that just said "Stop White Hate." That's all it said. Stop white hate. And this became a news story, local news story. Police were called. Sign was confiscated just because 3 words, stop white hate. That's it. That
That's
was enough
ridiculous. That's protected
to
under the
drive
Constitution.
people.
That's protected
Yeah.
under the Constitution. The police have no right of confiscating that
Well, I don't
whatsoever.
think the police confiscated it. I think citizens confiscated it and took it to the police, and then the police started investigating, blah blah blah. But
Well, then the
uh,
police should
but
arrest them for destruction of property and give them a fine.
there have been instances where similar things, like somebody had a White Lives Matter sign, and the police came and confiscated it on their property, at their
Yeah, no,
home,
that's
which is
ridiculous.
obscene.
It's free speech, dude. It's in the Constitution. It's protected.
Yeah.
Sue their asses.
But my
Uh,
point is, that's why you see it, because people you said the word hate, and the reason why I said it's simple is not that I was disagreeing with you, is because that's simply what it is. It's not about like, "Oh, I hate Jewish people," or but there's some of that,
it's
sure.
just hate.
There's a lot of that, in fact. It's just hate.
Yeah.
People want an outlet to hate. Hate is natural. Hate is not a bad emotion. There's no such thing as a bad emotion. It's just normal for you to hate, and because we live in a society now that tells you you're not allowed to hate, hate's not welcome here. Hate's bad. Hate blah 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 blah. the thing that they're allowed to hate, they go for. Even if it doesn't make any fucking sense, like you were talking about, a bunch of these people out here don't even know what they're chanting. They don't even know what they're talking about, but
No.
because they're allowed to express hatred, they're out here doing it. And that's what it is. That's how simple it is.
Yeah.
People don't have most people, we're talking about IQ, most people are dumb. Understand, the median IQ is about 100. That's dumb. Sorry, that's not smart. That's average. To me,
Yeah.
that's dumb. For somebody like me and probably Chester too, I'd imagine your IQ is somewhere around 140. That's dumb compared to us. So these people, most people aren't smart. They're very simple creatures. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being dumb. I'm not judging them morally, but that's what it is. So they don't necessarily think beyond, hey, I'm allowed to hate this, so I'm going to do it. It's the same type of people who they'll continue to watch the NFL, even though the NFL for 3 or 4 years, whatever it was spitting all over American traditions and
Yeah.
and their values.
I haven't watched it since.
And me neither. But these people went back to it because it's not. They're not doing it now. It's not a big debt. That kind of stuff. They're simple people. These
Mm.
are the salt of the earth people.
That's
They're
why
wonderful
boycotts don't
people.
work. Yeah.
I love these people. I'm not trying to disparage these people. But the reality of it is, their simplicity is a weapon of the enemy. It is how people like a Hitler, how a Mao, how these people can get into power because they're not very smart themselves either, but they know how to manipulate the simple animals that these humans are because humans have this hubris about us where we think we're more than just animals. But when you get to people with higher IQ, usually, and I mean higher, I'm not talking about midwits, like 130, 140 and higher, and you get the people with the really low IQ, if I call them an animal, they're like, yeah, there's an agreement there in that level of understanding human nature that the people in the middle for some reason just don't seem to have. But unfortunately, the people in the middle are in the middle, so they're the vast majority of people. So bad actors can manipulate them. I genuinely believe that most of the people in America have absolutely no idea where Palestine is. The ones who are supporting it, or in the West in general, they know it's by Israel. That's what they do. They don't know where it is. They couldn't point it out on a map. They don't know where Gaza is. They don't even know where Sinai is on a map. They've probably seen it 100 times right there at the top of Egypt, but they don't know that's what it is. They
Yeah.
have no
Well,
idea.
and even the people who think they know don't really know. Palestine
Exactly.
traditionally would have been the Negev Desert in what we call Jordan, right?
Correct. But my
So,
point is, my overarching point in my ramble here, it is that's how easy it is to manipulate. Some people use the disparaging term, they call them sheep, blah, 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 blah. But reality of it is, yeah, that's how most people operate. They operate like a herd of sheep. And it's
yeah,
very when you tell people over and over and over and over and over, our entire culture is anti-harm. You're not allowed to harm anybody, and no hate. Don't hate is bad. Hate is wrong. Hate blah 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 blah. And then you say, but except these people, you're
right,
allowed to hate these people. Well,
right.
then people are all in. Like fuck yeah, all right. Let me because you're suppressing a natural human emotion. Hatred is not bad. Hatred against things that are good is bad. Hatred has a purpose. It is to keep you from doing bad things. It's to keep you from being evil and wicked and cruel.
Hmm.
You should hate cruelty. You should hate wickedness. You should not reject that feeling of disgust and revulsion when you see somebody being disgusting and revolting. Because I shouldn't hate, I shouldn't judge. No, no. First of all, Jesus didn't teach that. I don't know where you're getting that from. So calm down, Christians. And second of all, no, no. Embrace that feeling because that's your moral guide that's inside of you, that little voice, that little Jiminy
Hmm.
Cricket, trying to get you to understand this is wrong.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that because a lot of people will complain about one of the things that popped in my head when you said that is you can't slut shame me, and
Yes.
of course we can, but
Yes, we can.
and we do, but
Yep.
the thing is, every time that person goes and does something inappropriate to the natural moral nature of a human body,
Yep.
you get this little thing in your gut, these little butterflies. We call it guilt,
Mhm.
right? Every single time. So for anyone to say that you didn't know it was wrong is ridiculous. Your body is telling you this. And for anyone who
Yep.
believes in a God, then I would say that the God put it there intentionally to try to, give you a heads up,
Yep.
right? Because
I agree.
every time you do something you know you shouldn't be doing, you get that feeling
Yep.
every
That
time.
pull.
Yeah.
Uh, mm.
So
that everybody's been there. Everybody's done it.
yeah,
Anybody who says they haven't done something they know they shouldn't have done is a liar.
yes,
You're doing it right now, in fact, because you're lying to me.
that's right.
You're either a psychopath that have no action, you don't actually have that feeling because you're a genuine psychopath, or you're lying to me or yourself. Stop it. Just be honest.
I
These things
stole.
are not bad.
I stole once in my life.
Uh-oh.
I don't remember how old I was. Probably around 8, right? Something like that. I was at
Mhm.
a Kmart and I saw because I never was given money for the gumball machines or anything. I was never given
Yeah.
this. So I saw this Matchbox car, and I had a few at home that I had gotten over the years, and I don't know, I liked it, so I took it and I put it in my pocket. Took it home, and for I don't know how long it was, but a week or two, I looked at it. I never opened it. I felt so guilty about it that next time we went to Kmart, I went and I put it back. This is the one time in my life I ever stole something. The one time.
Yeah.
And the guilt was so oppressive to little me that I just couldn't take it. Over a
Yeah.
Matchbox car.
Yeah.
I think it was Hot Wheels. But
What
I mean,
kind of could you remember the car? What it was?
it was blue.
Mm,
And it was like maybe a race car, NASCAR maybe,
gotcha.
because it had a lot of stickers on it. It wasn't just like a blue Corolla or something. But whatever. The point being is that guilt is always there, and you either
Yes.
respect it or you don't,
Yep.
right? But all these people that say they didn't know or it isn't wrong, you can't judge. Yes, we can, because we all have that gut, unless you're literally a sociopath, and sociopaths don't have it. And they have
Yeah.
to struggle to copy what they see other people doing or just become a psychopath. But most of them just stick as a sociopaths. But the only people that have that excuse are them because they're not born with it, right? But
Right.
the other 99% of us are born with that gut, that culture, that living bacteria in your stomach that understands morality better than you. There's a reason we call it the second brain. There's a reason, because that bacteria in your gut is a thinking living thing, and it constantly is warning you about moral infidelity, right? And it's really interesting that bacteria are smarter than you. Isn't that
Well, they're
shocking?
simple. They're simple creatures, the bacteria.
But that right there,
But
when you look at and you understand the actual dynamic that's going on, that it's literally a living bacteria that is giving you moral constancy. That right there, if you want to put forward all these reasons, people trying to say this is what I think is evidence of God, that right there is a big one. That's huge.
yep.
Because why would they function that way? Why would bacteria understand morality anyway? But yet they do.
Why would why would there even be morality?
Yeah.
Why, and I'm not saying that the only way to have morality is to have some kind of God. That's not what I'm saying. But why, as humans, do we care? Why do we care if we're right or wrong? Who gives a shit? The gorillas don't care. They just go do what
Well,
they want.
maybe they do though, right? Because
Well, as
animals
far as
don't
we
do
know, they
what
don't
we
care.
do, right? They don't do what we do.
All right, I'll give you a
And
better one. The
it could
chimps don't care. Chimps are evil little shits. They'll
they
rip
are.
off your arms, face, dick. They don't care. They got no compassion.
That's fair. But it might just be self-preservation. Maybe the bacteria
Could
is
be.
sensing that you're putting yourself in a dangerous situation, and that therefore it endangers them. It could be simple, I suppose. But just if you have to understand the effect of this second stomach, this second brain you have of this bacterial cultures in your gut. It's insane. I suggest you go read some studies on it and look it up,
Yeah.
because boy, it's way deeper than you think it is, right?
And it's
I
crazy, right?
I
Because
like
the go ahead.
I like how quickly Chester went to defend his ape brethren. The moment Thundero went and put some ape slander in there, he had, he had to defend his brother.
I am not a gorilla, sir. I am a squatch.
Listen, we don't
Oh,
know
We
stop!
are a
if
higher
that
form
ain't
of
the same
ape.
thing.
Thank you very much.
Look at the snooty primate cousin.
Hey,
You can tell.
we're upright. We're upright. All right. Did you see that fake Swatch video on the train? I was like, oh God, dude, it's
Yes.
so obviously someone in a costume. Come on, guys. Come on.
Yep. Yep. Listen, I want Sasquatches to be real, and
Sure.
something's out there, but I don't think they're what the myth character. I don't think it's
Well,
that. It's probably just some kind of bear
there
that
are
walks up where
there
the
are
living does.
Squatch stories all over the world.
Yes,
And I think it might just be kind of racial memory, right? Because
could be.
there have been other animal types that have been amongst us, other human types, right, that have been amongst us. There aren't any more, it seems. There might be some in little spots, I suppose, but in general, it's probably just racial memory of these other humanoid or hominid non-human types, I would imagine.
Well, there's a famous quote slash meme that somebody, I think they posted to Twitter years ago, and they pointed out that in order for the uncanny valley, the phenomenon where we see something that looks sort of human, like a computer image or whatever, but just isn't quite there, for that to be a thing,
Mhm.
for that to bother us like it does, means that at some point in our ancestors' existence, there was a creature that existed that looked almost exactly human, but not quite, and it terrified us,
Yeah,
terrorized us in some way,
we have
because
lived
otherwise we
alongside
wouldn't have that.
that. Well,
Yeah,
you have the
we wouldn't have
Denisovans, you
that.
have
Yep.
the Neanderthal, the Cro-Magnon. They used to try to separate it, but now we know that's just white people. Um, but you have the Homo erectus, you have Heidelbergensis, you have all of these very near human hominids, very near, right? Now, there are other things, and it's still argue whether they're connected to us or not, or it's just simply some manner of primate. But these ones I just mentioned are very human-like, right? They
Yep.
all had culture, they all built things. The Denisovans were extremely advanced. They're very much like us. But somehow or another, as we sit here today, the only ones to survive are the sapiens, us. So Dave said, "Dude, it's not Bigfoot, it's a ghost. It could be. It could be."
Could be. Yeah.
I did have
Yeah.
some things I want to talk about today, and I only got 30 minutes left, so maybe
Let's do it. Well,
maybe
you
I
started rambling about Israel again. I don't know. I
I
don't
did it.
know.
That was that was only a touch of it. But this first story here, I think it's pretty interesting, and I might be down for it. It's like the Von Erich's movie, The Claw. I'm definitely down for it. Let me go over here and bring this up for everyone to see it bigger. But go ahead.
What do we got here? Lord of the Rings creator. Wait a minute. There it goes. J.R.R. Tolkien's life to be adapted into graphic novel biography in Tolkien Lighting Up the Darkness. Interesting. So it's funny because I was just last night I was talking to our boy Grimlock here and Booster about how I like the one good thing about the AI takeover of art, of writing and all these things, that is it's eventually going to happen. It's going to be indistinguishable. Um, is that a lot of artists and creators and people like our boy Tolkien have they're very pretentious people. Now Tolkien necessarily not himself so much, but I just mean people like him, like George R. R. Martin, for instance. Very pretentious people. They got to stick up their ass, think their shit don't stink, type sorts of people. And the machines are going to rectify that very quickly and return society back to where it should be, where artists and actors and things are down near the bottom of the rungs, and the people doing other things are near the top. But I said my caveat is you're allowed to be a pretentious prick if you're a guy like Tolkien, if you're a guy like C.S. Lewis,
But he
if you're even
wasn't
George R. R.
pretentious,
Martin.
though.
I'm not saying he was. I'm just saying you're allowed to be that if you're that level of successful in your artistic field. If you're not, then calm down.
Right.
Like,
No,
you need to
that's true.
chill out.
Calm
You're
down.
not doing anything important. You're doing things, but at the end of the day, it's not that important. It's not
Mhm.
serious. Calm down.
Corlock is, Ben is giving us his scientific input today. He says, my bacteria is a giant asshole. It gives me massive acid reflux at night, even though my stomach is completely empty. Now, Ben, I could give you the scientific answer, which means the reason you're having acid reflux is because your stomach is empty. You know, so eat
Correct.
something.
Accurate. Yeah.
But the better answer, I think, the more appropriate answer is your bacteria is staunchly standing against your political opinions.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the fact that you are an atheist,
Hmm.
and the bacteria is like,
Hmm.
listen,
Hmm.
we didn't put ourselves in here,
Hmm.
so maybe you need to chill out.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
your own
Yeah.
stomach is telling
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the better one. But the
Yeah.
truth is, you shouldn't go to bed on an empty stomach, dude.
Yeah. Get something in there. Get a
Yeah.
banana in there or something.
Especially
Something.
when you get to a certain age, Ben. When we get a little bit older. My grandmother used to every night before she go to bed, she'd take one of those old digestive biscuits. Remember those things?
Oh
And
yeah.
she would
Hmm.
soak it in a bit of milk, and she would eat it just before going to bed. You don't want to have a
No,
heavy
and
meal
Just
before going to bed, but just some small snack. You want food in your stomach.
I like banana. I like the banana. The
Yeah,
banana's a good time. Potassium. Make sure you don't get cramps in the middle of the night. Banana's a good time.
yeah, banana's good.
Keeps the acid down.
Grimlock brownies, apple pies, red
that
velvet
always works.
cakes. Yeah, I like those. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Wouldn't I be the creator for my stomach from its perspective? I am God. No, 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 no. We've already made it quite clear that the bacteria think very little of us.
Well, can you blame them?
No,
Have you met humans? They're
no.
kind of the
Yeah,
worst.
yeah. They're a little bit over us, to be honest with you. But yeah, that's funny. But it is
We need to
interesting.
talk next week. We need to talk about the orcas because they're still out here killing people, and
Oh,
no
they
one's
are.
talking about it.
That's
But
true.
it's becoming a problem.
Oh, is it?
Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. The orcas. Yeah, they're dangerous because they mistake us as seals, and we're probably equally as tasty.
Oh,
Anyway,
they're straight attacking boats, bro. They're sinking ships all along the European coast,
oh,
right outside the Mediterranean.
oh goodness, it's
So you're
the
saying
animal
they're racist?
revolt. They are racist. Yeah, yeah, anti-human. Anyway, this right here, it might be interesting. Tolkien had a very interesting life. His military, of course, you see here him in a military uniform, but
Yeah.
his actions in World War I really developed a lot of his, what came to be in the Lord of the Rings, right? The
Yeah.
vistas he saw, and the places and the things, the war he saw, it really shaped his creativity, and you see a lot of World War I in of course Lord of the Rings. You do. So this could be a lot of fun. It could be interesting if they show the proper respect and do an actual documentary, right? And this graphic novel biography, I don't know this one, but if it's showing actual respect and giving an actual biography of the real man, it could be good. Warts
Could
and
be, yeah.
all. Yeah.
Interesting.
But these days they have to arrange things because there's no way they can allow a white man to have any kind of,
Here's how you'll
shine.
know one way or the other, how what's the word I'm looking for? How fair. We'll go with fair this is and how well done it is. It'll depend on how much they emphasize or don't emphasize or what they say about his relationship with C.S. Lewis. Because they were very, very, very good friends. Um, but C.S. Lewis and him had many disagreements, especially about, theology and things. And
Right.
you can read they had letters where they wrote to each other. Like this isn't it's not me just, making stuff up. That's reality.
Yeah.
So it'd be very interesting how they portray that because it's a very important part of his life, his friendship with C.S. Lewis,
Sure.
that a lot of people don't really talk about how influential they both were on each other's works.
Oh yeah. Well, they would go
Um,
to that pub, and they would
yeah,
near Oxford, and they would. It wasn't just those two; it was a big group of writers, and they would
yep,
bounce ideas off each other.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it'd just be interesting if they're fair, because there's a weird hatred of C.S. Lewis in literary circles, especially lefty ones, mainly just because of his, he's Christian.
Right.
Uh, and it'll be interesting. You'll know very quickly what you're about to get. There's
Yeah.
certain litmus tests you can put out there. Lately, one of them is for J.K. Rowling, which I find hilarious. How people's opinion of her, Miss Super Liberal J.K. just because she doesn't like trans people in women's sports and women's
Right.
spaces. That's all she said. She just
That's right.
doesn't like him
No, no,
there. That's
I
it.
don't disagree with her. But she's a really good writer too. She's
Yeah.
she is good. But the thing is, I know Tolkien's life well because he's an important
Mhm,
person to me.
mhm.
He is the same field as me. He's better than I am, but
Well,
but it's the same field, right? We're both philologists.
yeah.
He's a very successful one. I'm not. However, um, well, it's true, right? But I know a lot about this guy, and one thing there are plenty of writers who have their demons, Stephen King. But
Yeah, oh God,
this was actually a very good human. This was a good
the guy's a
man.
good guy.
He was a
Yeah,
good man, a good father, a good husband. There are no infidelities. There are no, abuses, none of that. He was a really good man, and he tried to be that. He strived for it and was more successful more often than not. So it'll be very interesting to see. If it's an honest look, I think it'd be great. But,
yeah, be
we'll see.
nice.
We'll see. Now,
But
this right here should not
uh-oh,
surprise anybody at all.
here it comes. Sean Gordon Murphy reveals the main character for his upcoming Zorro comic is a lesbian.
By sheer
Says he
accident, by the way.
90% aligned with Heather Antos.
Yes. Now, in this article, Sean Gordon Murphy, who good artist, I have nothing against his ability. But he is this guy has always been an ultra wokeite. He is 100. He says 90%, but no, he's 100% in Heather Antos. And keep in mind, Heather Antos was a hack. She had no ability, and she has
Was still is.
well, yeah, but she has gotten fired from every job she had, and she still gets jobs, but it is definitely falling down the ladder. She is not good at what she does. He's also a major supporter of Max Visaggio. Once again, I don't care about his politics whatsoever. But the more
Yeah,
important thing with Vags Visaggio, or whatever the frick his name um, is the
thanks.
fact that he is a very bad writer.
Yeah, not good at it. Not good
He's
at it.
very bad at
No.
it.
Oh yeah,
See,
and that very bad writer was just handed yet another book to that Rebel Moon series
oh yeah, no,
coming up.
it's all politic, but he's very bad, and he hasn't improved over time because you can improve over time, but he's not. Whereas we take someone else like say Grant Morrison. Now I don't know anything about his personal life, but I would be shocked if I were wrong that he's not a gay man. I'm
Grant?
pretty
Oh
sure
yeah.
he is. Yeah,
Yeah,
hardcore,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
But
yeah,
the thing
yeah.
is, do you care? Because
No,
that
No,
dude is phenomenal, right?
he's
See,
pretty
that's the
good.
thing. You can be whatever politic you want to be. Just do whatever it is you do well.
You can be just about anything as long as you're really, really good at something. People are very forgiving to excellence.
That's true.
Very forgiving.
And
yeah,
if Bags Visaggio was was capable of actually
yeah,
being a
that's
good
about right.
writer, was well, but if he was capable of writing, we would care less, right?
Yeah.
Because like for instance, there's a comic book I really enjoy that's called oh geez, I can't remember it of. It's really good art and it's been running for a long time and it's super woke. My brain just left me. It's a single word. Uh,
Saga.
Single word.
Saga. Yeah, Saga. Thank you.
Ah,
And that is wicked woke, but it's really good though.
well written.
It's really well written. So, but anyway,
Yeah.
so that's Sean Gordon Murphy. Nothing new. Same thing. He's spouting the same nonsense. And during it, this article, which I actually think you might enjoy the read. This is coming out of John, by the way, John Della Rose. Just to show you real quick.
Good old
And
JDA.
John's a good writer. He's good at
He
what he
is.
does. But in this article, it's basically showing that Sean is complaining about all the people complaining about wokeness and lack of quality and all this stuff, and he said doesn't mean anything, it's irrelevant, da 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 da. And then he goes when they start talking about his new comic, which is being kickstarted. Interesting, they're all folding over to that, isn't it? That he says, oh well, the main character just happens to be a lesbian. After all his vitriol and rhetoric that he just went through, then of
Yeah.
course exactly what he just said he proves is what they're doing. But he realizes it. He's not that stupid, and he realizes and said, well, just so happens to be a lesbian. So the new Zorro, his Zorro, is a modern take. So it's a female, but it's not, but it also not only is a modern female take, it's also just happens to be a lesbian, standing up
Conveniently.
for all the lesbian stuff, right? So
In
once again,
in the old West Mexico, yeah, a lot of
right.
lesbianism.
Well, I think he's modernized it. But Sean Gordon Murphy, you get none of you should be surprised that this guy is a hard, cold, hard, just ridiculous lefty, a wokeite, and whatever.
Nobody's surprised, but the problem with him and people like him is that he's spineless, and it's a big.
Mm.
Being spineless is an even bigger problem than Mags and fucking Heather because we know why they're there.
Well, they are true
Heather
believers. That
Antos,
is true. Yeah.
Heather Antos may chafe at the idea that she gets jobs because she was the work wife of a fat slob with no standards in Jordan White, but that's pretty much the reason she got a job because it was never anything that she did prior to that to warrant her not only getting a job at the company she's gotten, but the high level jobs she's gotten. The same thing with Mags. We know that if Mags was still Brian Visaggio, he'd still be out there not being able to write what the fuck. But because he
Well,
went and got a boob job, a horrible wig, and started calling himself Mags,
is it
all of a
Mags? Is that the
sudden
name? Okay.
it's Magdalene Visaggio or some shit like that. Thing is, it still hadn't gotten a bit of fuck. Changing your sex doesn't get you a change of talent. You
No.
still was one of the most talentless, unskilled writers to ever come across. And if it wasn't for actual retards like Vita Ayala and Danny Lore getting books, you'd be the worst one in the business.
Yeah, but the thing
You
with
still might be the
Mags,
worst one in the
well,
business.
no, but he hasn't improved at all over time, which is a bit surprising to me.
Yeah.
You would think he just by simple inertia have improved, but he hasn't. Now, Sean, on the other hand, is a slightly different situation, isn't it? We know he's a super
Yes.
woke guy, but he's also very talented.
Yes, but like I said, but he's also spineless.
Yes,
And
but he
and that makes it that him and the Jimmy Palmiottis and the Zack Snyders. Yeah, they're talented, and they're always going to get work because they're talented. But because they're spineless, they're always going to leave the door open for these people. And as long as the door is open for these people, you're never going to get rid of them. That's why you can fucking have a Mags Visaggio who can't write worth a damn, who got a show on Sci-Fi, not because anybody wanted it. It's because he literally gave them a free show, and somebody who was more talented had their show canceled to make way for that. That's
yeah.
the kind of shit I'm talking about.
No, I understand the frustration with it, but I am
Well,
recognizing
it's not
talent.
even frustration at that point because it's not hurting me. I'm
Now,
not the one posting fucking GoFundMe's every other month to make my rent. I got a job.
that's true. But you are talking about talentless people. Ben mentioned
Yeah.
Sunstone. I was talking about Saga, but Sunstone. I do remember this. It's a very pretty comic book, and I thought it was written fairly well. It might be woke, but it is well done though. So for me, I kind of will put up a distinction between talentless people and talented people, and politics aside, right? I'm willing
Yeah.
to do that. You guys really aren't. But Sean is insufferable. Let's be fair.
Well, let's put it this way: who made that? Who made that possible? Because prior to twenty
Kathleen
fifteen,
Kennedy.
I wasn't. I no, not even her fault. For as many things she can be blamed for, I can't even blame her for that. Prior to 2015, I wasn't paying attention to that.
I
They're the
blame
ones who
Barack
made.
Obama.
They're the ones who made me pay attention to that, and I don't know. I can't speak for anybody else but myself. But I've always had the kind of brain that once I see it, I'm not gonna unsee it. I'm not gonna forget about it. I'm not gonna forget about the retarded, silly shit these fuckers have said over the years. I'm not gonna forget these are the people who said I should fucking drop dead because I didn't vote for their war criminal of choice, despite the fact I don't vote for anybody. No, I don't forget things like that, and I don't forgive either. So
Oh.
no,
Mm.
it got, well then it's not warranted.
Mm. Ben,
You
am
you
I?
you 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 you, for- you forgive a righteous person who does wrong. These people are not righteous. They are leeches.
Well,
You don't
that
you don't.
well, the comic book industry. But Ben, am I remembering incorrectly? Wasn't Sunstone like really pretty comic book, and it was pretty good? I seem to remember it was. It's been a while. But anyway, this is same old nonsense, different day. But
Yeah.
let's go to something that's a little bit more fun.
Ooh, look at him. Look at the G-Man. Look at him. Early Godzilla
Hey,
-1 reactions paint upcoming film as a tearful anti-war masterpiece.
Okay.
I will say
Okay.
this: those last two trailers they've put out have looked really good.
Yeah, but yeah, they do, and I'm going to watch it. But it's probably going to be horribly acted because Japanese are shit at it. But I don't understand this headline because you do realize that everything Godzilla related is a tearful anti-war piece.
Yeah,
Yep.
That's the whole point of Godzilla. He's
Correct.
an anti-war figure.
yeah, from the beginning.
Do
Correct.
they do does Augustine not know this?
When we watched
Perhaps not.
well, I don't know if I didn't read this article. Is he shitting on that fact or is he just stating what it is? Um
I don't
but
think he's
remember when
shitting
we
on anything.
watched
It seems like an odd
a
thing to
couple
say.
years
It's
ago,
redundant, is my point.
what was it, 4 years ago now, 3 years ago, whatever it was, when we watched the original Godzilla, uh that movie is a genuine masterpiece. Genuine masterpiece. It's so good.
Well, the original?
And
Oh, Jesus, dude.
yeah, the
Yeah,
very
Yeah.
original.
really good. Yeah.
So I don't hate the idea of them trying to capture that again. The
No,
problem that I've seen coming out of Japan is they're not that talented.
they're
They
not.
don't.
Their actors are horrible.
They're
Um,
just not that good.
They are horrible. So we'll see. It's probably going to be a pretty film to look at, but the acting will be atrocious.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Ben says that it's about Soulstone. Super pretty about lesbians BDSM. Yeah, I must be thinking about a different one because I don't remember a lesbian BDSM book and that I liked it. I do remember one that looked similar to it, had a similar name that was actually not bad. It was woke, but it wasn't bad. It was about some girls in I think it was a fantasy setting. I think there were a lot of dragons on the cover. I can't remember what it was. It's a woke piece, but it was beautiful and it was well written. But that's clearly not that one. Yeah. But yeah, that's just cool. We'll see. We'll check it out. It might be similar to the Hollywood ones where just ignore the human parts and just enjoy the G-Man doing his thing.
Big man.
Yeah.
There he is.
It is a fun character, and of course we do have the new one coming out too, and people like it. It's getting good reviews from the screenings. They just are kind of disappointed. There's not more Godzilla in it. It's just a King Kong piece. But man, well, we'll see. It doesn't mean it won't be fun. But this right here I thought was pretty interesting though.
James Gunn's Creature Commandos has reportedly been delayed, that's how that should say, to 2025.
Well, now I found this interesting because there might have been some listing of some potential drop, but I haven't really seen any kind of date yet. For me, this is the first date. So it's not for me, it's not delayed to 2025. It's coming in 2025.
Yeah.
And so because I haven't really seen, I know it's coming. He talked about it, but I haven't seen any confirmation yet. It seems like there must have been, or Trent wouldn't be reporting on it. But I'm curious to see because this is going to be one of the very first James Gunn things we see, right? And I do
Yeah.
like Creature Commando. There's a lot of fun things we could do with this. I think this is right up his alley, right?
Yes.
And this is being developed by a group called Bobby Pills, which I'll write in it. But
And it's smart that this is one of the first things you're going to see from him because, like you just said, right up his alley. It'll, if it goes well, which it probably will,
it should.
um,
This is his
it'll
thing.
build buzz, right, for
Yeah,
for
yeah.
what's coming. So we'll see.
Yeah, it could be a lot of fun. Obviously, where I see some flip flops here with characters, but it doesn't matter. Creature Commandos can be anything. But it could be fun, and it's very much in the vein of what James Gunn does. So, but for me, I don't really feel like it's a delay. I just feel it's like, oh, okay, it's coming in 2025, so we're a year
Yeah,
away.
it's kind of weird because, like you said, I don't remember them putting
Yeah,
any date up. I mean, maybe we missed it because I'm you
we
know
might have.
I'm
Yeah.
I haven't been I'm not been paying too much attention to what DC has been doing because it's been so fucking bad. Um, but we also know with all these silly Hollywood strikes that a lot of things is going to be delayed. So uh, I mean that's this point to be expected.
This should have very little to do with that because they can always keep their feet busy with other things. And this is one of the problems we see with a lot of people. If they're in their activism or doing their thing, they don't keep their feet busy.
Yeah,
The thing with this is, sure, all right, you might not be able to do the voice acting, but what you can do is the animation. You should keep your feet
yeah.
busy, right? But Ben says that yeah, the author of Sunstone, Sejet, did a series of fantasy comics around a group of girls called Rat Queens. Yeah, I saw that one too. That actually wasn't that bad. I mean, once again, it is super woke, but that wasn't that bad. I'm thinking of a different one though. I'm thinking of a different one. It's a beautiful, Ben. The art looked a lot like Moorcock, but it was more subdued in its color. Moorcock was like out of control psychedelic colors, right? Which are I think worked really well with the Elric stuff. But this
I
was
thought Rat Queens is a different author. I didn't think that was.
yeah,
I
I
could be
don't
wrong.
know. I don't know. But the comic I'm thinking about is very more cocky in its art. It's just more subdued in its color. And it, like I said, it was a woke book, but I thought it was pretty good though. But this right here, for me, this is good news, because I'd like to see it. I want to see what James is going to do, right?
Yeah.
And this is going to be the most forward stepping thing from him because some of the other stuff is out of his depth. But I hope it's good. A fun little animation piece. And do keep in mind that DC absolutely throttles Marvel in the animated department.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they put out. There's been so many great DC animated films, and it sounds like they're really going for a very, very specific look here. So I'm looking forward to it.
Which is sad. People kind of look down on animated features because if I was DC, that's what I would have done for the entire next year. I would have just done some fucking animated features until you got shit figured out.
Yeah, yeah, they're really good at that. Yeah, but it's just all a hot mess right now anyway. And I think they keep talking about superhero fatigue, and I don't think that's the issue. I think there are other
It's
issues.
not. It's shit product fatigue. That's
It
what it
is.
is.
It's
They complain
it's trying to,
that all they.
yes, it's trying to make a Blade movie starring not Blade. That's what we're fatigued with, guys. It's not
Yeah.
we're not fatigued necessarily with superheroes as a genre. I'd say there's some of that, but I think most of it, if you put out something good, people will show up to watch
Are
it. And
you
we know
reading my
that
mind or
people
something?
people showed up to yeah, apparently I am. People showed up to watch the Spider-Man movie. The most recent Spider-Man movie made a lot of money because it was good.
Mhm.
So people will come out and watch superhero stuff still. It just has to, I don't know, be good. Crazy, I know. Anyway, Marvel exec behind Blade reportedly fired because he, quote, didn't sound the alarm on film's abysmal direction. It's one quote, it's one of the few times that anyone has actually ever heard Kevin Feige yell at someone.
Well,
End quote.
about time, Kevin.
All right. Let me just say,
So
whoever got fired is bullshit. They knew exactly what it was. He had to ring no fucking alarm. He got fired because that's for PR. They need somebody to fire to say, well, this guy fucked up. No, Kevin
and
was the fuck up.
the
Yeah,
board probably
probably.
went ahead Yeah, they wanted
Yeah,
his
Yeah.
scalp. Wasn't
yeah,
going to be
because
Kevin.
Nelson
So,
Peltz and Ike Perlmutter's coming for that ass, and that's
yeah,
Right.
that's why they're saying that shit.
Right.
Um,
Roger, you should check out Creature Commandos. It's a lot of fun. It's a good series. Good title. But anyway, of course, we know all the bunk behind this. Ali here is actually a big fan of this character. Probably the Wesley Snipes one is probably what he's thinking. I don't know how much of a comic
everybody
nerd he
should
is.
be
Yeah,
because
Blade's
Blade's
fun, right?
cool.
Blade
Yeah.
is cool. That's the whole thing. It's the Blade is the rule of cool, right? Wesley
Yes.
understood that.
Exactly.
And
Yes.
Ali wanted to be that. He's very excited about it. But of course, he come
Yep.
in, and what these people were doing was he was literally the fourth actor. The other three were women, and it was all about the women and teaching life lessons, and it had nothing to do with Blade. And he didn't like it, and he was pushing back against it. And this thing has
No.
had delays and breaks and fires. There's been so many people fired from this, and it's an absolute hot mess. And it's a shame because it's a Blade movie. It's about
It should be
Blade,
easy.
and he's killing
Should be easy.
vampires. It's not hard.
So easy.
There's no
So
message
easy.
here.
No.
Right. It's
No.
just
Blade is not a political. There's no political statement in Blade
no,
at all. It's well,
no.
okay. I'll give you one. Kill vampires. There you go. There's
Mhm.
the political statement. That's it. And do it as cool as possible,
Right.
please. Can
And
we make it as cool as possible?
you notice when Wesley did it, there was not a single moment in any of those movies where there was a but black people, but white
Yeah.
people. Not one.
No.
Right? He's
No.
just the dude. He is black. Well, but as far as the movies go, of course, not the comic, but the movies, he's a mulatto. He's half black. But
Yep.
not one time did he or his mother or any other black people or non-white people in it did it ever come up about but white people, but black people, but
Correct.
yellow people. Not once. They're just people,
Well, it's
right?
funny because Grimlock and I were just talking about this yesterday, and I had said it seems like to me, from my observations, that for whatever reason, the hardcore like pro-black, these super all about black people, they don't have the same attachment to Blade as a character as they do Black Panther as a character. And the main reason I could come up with is because Blade as a character disproves all of their rhetoric about representation.
Luke
Because
Cage as well.
the very
it
first
they
Marvel
wasn't
movie
propagandized.
Mm.
that was successful was Blade. That was the first successful Marvel
Yep.
franchise in the new era. Well, I'd say ever as a movie, to be honest.
Yep.
And they made three of them. Two of them are pretty good. The third one, it exists.
No, it
Um,
exists. Yeah, it's bad.
but my point is, we don't have any of this stuff if Blade doesn't work. Blade works because Blade is cool.
He
Because
is.
somehow, by accident, or maybe somebody had the foresight, I doubt it though, they picked a character that they couldn't screw up because all they had to do was make him cool. That's it.
Yep.
He just has to
Yep.
look cool when he's killing vampires, and they pulled it off.
Yeah,
With
and
Wesley as
Wesley
the
is a
perfect choice.
perfect choice. Yeah,
Yeah.
perfect choice. But I mean,
Yep.
it's fairly important. It's not important, but it is in this modern zeitgeist to understand that
Yep.
him being black is irrelevant.
Correct.
It doesn't
He's just
matter.
cool.
He's
He's
just
just Blade.
cool. He's just a hero. He's not even an anti-hero. He's just straight up hero, right?
Yep. Kills
Um,
kills the bad vampires because they're bad. That's
Eliminates
it.
the bad. Yeah, it's very, very simple, and that's what Ali wanted. Because like in his interview, he said very clearly he was a big fan of what Wesley did, and he wanted to carry that on, and he was very excited about it. And he's kind of pissed off at what they're doing. I don't blame him because he just wants to
Yep.
do super ultra cool. And I think Ali is skilled enough to pull it off. Matter of fact, it'd probably be a deeper, more interesting Blade with him than with Wesley because Wesley's a bit two dimensional. I mean, he's great, but he doesn't have a depth that Ali could bring to a character
Him as
like that.
Simon Phoenix, bro. That might be the best character in the entire '90s decade. The way he plays
Oh,
Simon Phoenix in
Demolition Man,
Demolition
that
Man.
was great. Yeah.
Oh, I love Simon Phoenix, bro. Um, but I would love. We were talking about this too. The only director I can think of right now that's out there that understands what Blade needs to be is Stileski, the guy who does the John Wick movies.
Oh yeah.
You give him Blade,
Yep.
and we would have.
Yep. Yep.
Oh my
Oh yep.
God, it would be awesome.
It
It'd
would
be
be
so
wonderful.
good.
And they already laid the
Oh,
groundwork. They already have an infrastructure. They have a sub
yeah,
world like the Continental, right? They already have all that. They've already
Yep.
set it up with the Wesley movies. The first one was great fun. The second one was phenomenal. I love the Guillermo del
Yep.
Toro's version. The third one, just ignore it ever happened,
Yes.
because it's ridiculously bad. But hopefully they'll work this out because I'm interested to see what Ali does with it because he's kind of speaking like Hugh Jackman, right? Hugh didn't know
Mm,
anything about Wolverine. He said, "Give me all the comics." He read them all and he became a fan of Wolverine, right?
yep.
And Ali's a fan, at least of a
That's
Wesley
what
Snipes character.
that's what Pattinson did. Pattinson did the same thing.
Yeah,
When he was cast, he got the casting for Batman. He's like, I gotta go study him basically,
yeah, of
and that's
course.
what he did.
Yeah,
Studied him,
yeah,
and he fell in love with Batman. And you could see in the interviews he'd give that he knew what he was talking about. People
yeah,
would bring up Batman stories, and he knew them.
yeah. Well,
Um,
Batman's easy
and
to
I
like.
think
Let's be fair.
well, it's the same thing though. I mean, Batman has a little bit more, a lot more deeper going on than Blade does psychologically, but surface level, he's fucking cool. He's
He is
just
cool.
cool. He
He's cool.
looks cool. He kicks bad guys' asses. He has no remorse for kicking their ass, and he shows up, beats their ass, and leave.
Hmm.
That's cool.
Hmm.
That is literally the archetype of a cool hero from the days of the first stories we've ever written. The guy who shows up, beats the bad guy, leaves. That's it. That's what he does. And that's what Batman does on a surface level. Obviously, there's a lot more to it, but for a
Well, yeah,
surface
yeah,
level,
no,
that's
I
all
get
he
your
does.
point. Well, you notice
Um,
that today's underline, I put down the shift
yep.
because we've been seeing a lot of people at various projects that are shifting back to what we would consider more normal. I don't believe it, don't trust it, but I'm seeing a lot of this shift, and I'm wondering if this is that. Now Grimlock had mentioned
Well,
that Kevin's covering his ass here, and he probably is. But is this part of the shift? Do you think?
in a ways, yes, because all right, the fact that it got to this point, does that not exemplify all of Disney's failings with the Marvel IPs?
Very much so.
I would say yeah, but
But we see them all
also,
the time, right? They do this all the time.
but yeah,
Yep.
but also, what did I just say when we was talking about the last article with Sean Gordon Murphy and in comparison to what Marshall Ali did? The difference between a spineless man and a man with one.
Yeah.
Marshall Ali said, "Hey, motherfucker, this ain't what I signed up for. You got me going from Blade, Vampire Hunter to Little Women. Either fix this or I'm walking the fuck out." And it would have been really bad, especially with Disney, since they're so concerned about their diversity and inclusion,
Hmm.
that you have a hand-picked black man and you picked him for this,
And a
and
good
then you
actor,
do this. Yeah, and you do this, it would look really bad
it would.
PR wise.
Now, I stopped on this picture because
But
this was the entire intention of the crew that was making Blade. It's not about Ali. Screw this Oscar
yeah,
winner we have. It's all about his daughter, and they're going to pick someone we don't even know, right? And that's what they were focusing on: is this girl and her things. Daddy's just in the background making cameos. She's
which is
Blade.
ironic.
He's not
Which,
Blade. She's
which is
Blade.
ironic because that is a story that Marvel has been sitting on for 6 years now. Because if you, I'm pretty sure you guys remember, you might have covered this back then. But when they was doing their Marvel Now shit and they was replacing all of the male heroes,
Yes.
Blade was supposed to be replaced with that girl. But because the guy who actually wrote that story was white, they shelved the story because
Right.
it didn't go good with the message at the time. So this is something, as many of us have said, and now that it's become safe to say it publicly in the mainstream, now it's safe to say, "Oh yeah, that's not good. Oh, we told you that shit 7 years, 6 or 7 years ago, but we was just bigots then."
Right. But
Yeah.
there are
That's the
problems
story
with it.
they always. That's the story they always wanted to tell. Just like how they always wanted to replace T'Challa with Shuri. Chadwick dying just made it that much more convenient.
It did.
I don't give a fuck
It
what
did.
they said. That was always their end goal.
True. But
They just
when
got there a lot faster.
when we look at Black Panther, that's a character that can be legacy, though, right? But
Sure.
Blade
Yes,
is an
he's one of he's
immortal vampire hunter. He needs no
yeah.
legacy.
He is the Daywalker.
Black Panther is one of the few that you can actually use the mantle argument and it works. That's
Correct.
one of the rare Marvel
It's
characters
true.
that argument holds up.
Yeah. But I mean,
But
it's really ridiculous. You have an Oscar winner, a multiple Oscar
Okay.
winning actor
Yeah.
who is
Yep.
really good at what he
yeah,
does. What are you
Phenomenal.
doing?
Yep. His
He's your
death
whole
in the Luke
life
Cage
focused on
show.
this guy and said, please take me to the bank. Please take me to the bank. That's what a
Bro, if
director
they did it
would
right,
do.
if they
this
do
is
this
the
right, like I said, Blade was the first one. Blade. This is
Yeah.
it. This is
Yeah.
the granddaddy of them all for Marvel movies. Right here. Blade. If they do this right, they could potentially create a front runner for the MCU. They could do it. That guy's that good of an actor. He's
He's
that
great. I
charismatic.
love
He's
Ali.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
And if they did it right and they nailed it and they knocked it out of the park, they could do that. Now it would be a little weird to have Blade be that, but hey, they got to have somebody at this point. They got nothing. But my point is, these people have a chance to do something phenomenal here because Blade was the first. Blade was the granddaddy. He was the one that kicked off the whole idea really at that level of Marvel superheroes being profitable as movies. I don't think you get a Spider-Man movie without Blade.
yeah.
Not the first Blade movie. I just don't think it happens. Um,
No, it doesn't.
and the X-Men maybe, but I don't know. I don't know. But that first Blade movie, people don't. It doesn't get the credit it deserves. It changed Hollywood in a way that people didn't understand at the time, and we finally came to fruition with the MCU.
Well,
And
hell,
it did it.
Marvel
It did
still
it in less
doesn't
than a
understand.
decade. No, no, they don't. They don't. They still don't
All
give
right,
it
think
credit.
about this. It's 2023. That first Blade movie came out in 1998. 25 years has passed.
Yep.
And Blade is still one of the most requested characters for all Marvel media, whether it's video games, books. For some reason Marvel will just not give him a monthly series in spite of the request. They'll give Kamala Khan 5 more series before he gets one.
Well, he's the right color, but he's the
He's
wrong gender. You see.
Yeah.
he's his what little bit of merchandise he does have, which is mostly action figures, consistently outsell some of the other characters they try to push. So they had this character. They did what most companies want to do and don't. And again, they usually do it by accident. They took a C or D list character and put him in a media he otherwise wouldn't have been in, and it was wildly popular. It elevated not just him but everyone else. Because, like Thundaro said, I don't know if Marvel gets the Spider-Man or X-Men movie without the success of the Blade movies.
Mm.
Because Marvel financially was not in a good spot by the time that
Whoa.
movie came out.
They needed the
So,
movies. It was a
Right.
lifeblood.
It was.
and as successful as their cartoon series were, they was trying to do an integrated universe with with animated series, but because of the way things were with the networks, they couldn't do what they wanted because of all the network fighting of who could have what characters and
Right.
when.
The whole X-Men stuff. That's
So,
true. And Alan,
well, not
I am
all of them.
told,
X-Men
Alan, that
all
black don't crack. So.
yeah. Well, but he is correct. Just the fact that they wasn't serious, because as much as I like Ali, I still maintain that they should have given that to a younger guy who could do that, for 20, 30
Maybe.
years. Not saying that Ali can't,
I like
but
his look though, because yeah,
And his
I'm
voice.
stopped on this picture right here for a reason. If you're old like me and you read Blade way back in the day, right?
yeah,
Um, Blade was there are many black people in comic books, obviously, but
yeah,
Blade was always dark. He's dark black man,
yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
recently they've been lightening him up for some reason. I don't know why.
That's
But
some of that
I
I
like
want.
Ali doing it, 'kay, and Wesley too. They're dark black men. It's correct. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Some of that I wonder if it's the digital art that the artists that they've been using, because some of that
Maybe.
it just
But
Like
Blade's always was super dark, right? He almost
yeah,
always has kind of an African, not an American, an African look to him. This guy looks like your
yeah,
typical mulatto American black guy, right here.
yeah.
Um, and you could, it's a very standard look. I think Ali's a good choice because he's got that African look to him. I like it.
Yep. Yep. Go watch Alita. He's in that movie. He's one of the bad guys in Alita. And there's a scene. This is
Yep.
what made me think of it. And then right after they announced that he signed on to be Blade, which is interesting. There's a scene in that movie where one of the other people is getting into a limousine and he's already sitting in there in like the shadow, but a little bit you can see him and he's got sunglasses on that look very similar to Blade's. And I said, holy shit, he's Blade. He looked just like him.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Just like him. And then literally not even like a month later, they announced that he had signed on to be the new Blade. I said that's the right choice.
I
He's
don't know
for
how to
one, he's
spell his
charismatic.
name. All right, you
He's
go and I'll do
charismatic
this.
as all hell. Charismatic as all hell. He just is. He's phenomenal. He was absolutely the best part of the Luke Cage show, and they killing him off killed the show for me. I
Here we
stopped
go.
watching it. I couldn't get into it after he died off.
Yeah,
Uh, and he has this incredible voice,
he does.
right? And
Yes,
it's just perfect for Blade. It's just the right amount of menacing, right? Because Blade he should very much be the silent, kick your ass, don't say much to you while he does it type character.
right.
Doesn't need to say a lot, but when he does say something, you need to remember it.
He was
And
great as Cottonmouth in Luke Cage, by the way.
oh, so good as Cottonmouth, bro. And
Yeah.
that's why I honestly think I agree with you. I think he's just a perfect choice. The only thing I would say is, yeah, he is a little bit too old for
Well,
if they're going to do this going in the future, but we'll see what
he's
happens.
mainly a TV guy as well.
He was,
But
yeah, for a long time.
yeah, but he's done a few things. Of course, the Predator movie. I remember that. Alcatraz, Alphas, TV series. Yeah, Hunger Games stuff. I didn't watch that nonsense. Yeah, a lot of TV stuff. I know I've seen him in a couple of things, but really, what sticks with me with him is his Cottonmouth. It's really good.
So good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So good.
and of course he was in Alita. That's right. He did a
Yep.
voice of Titan in Invincible. I haven't seen that yet, but I do like the guy, and I think I think he has the right, because Blade has always looked African, right? He doesn't look American. He not the old one anyway. But whatever. We'll see what happens with it. But it's a nightmare situation they got going over there, and who knows? They say that they're still on board for doing it, but are they? Because they
We'll
fired
see.
they fired the directing crew and the various behind the scenes people several times. This isn't the first time this
Yeah.
has happened. That they can't, keep in mind they were really close to going into production at one point and it got canceled.
Yeah.
Well, that part's been part of the course for Marvel for the last 3 to 4 years, where they're constantly shuffling the deck with production teams, writing crews. They seem to go in and go, well, we want to use these characters and not have a single fucking clue as what to do with them. They don't have a story to tell, and they think because they're checking diversity boxes that'll make people forget that there's no story or that the story is shit. Um, it they look like they tried to do the same thing with Ali, and like I said, the fact that Ali has more of a backbone than apparently a lot of these people do, to where he said, "What the fuck is this bullshit?" They're probably having to reshuffle to where they're gonna actually have to tell a story, and it's not hard.
No, and
There's
especially
this
with
book
Blade.
called Tomb of Dracula that you could pull from.
Yeah, they won't do that though. Then they're
You
going to
know,
start banging heads with Warner Brothers. But no, you're right. Blade is easy, dude. You could
they
just
don't have
drop.
to use the Dracula name, but you can use the story. Call him Vlad. They don't have to fight with Vlad the Impaler
Or
because
Terry
there's a million of
or Jerry. Sorry, Jerry. We just call him Jerry.
them. Jerry the Impaler. I don't think it
Yeah,
rolls
yeah,
off the
Jerry. That was the joke. Fright Night, great movie. But anyway, you know what they could do? Very simply, in a very simple story. Since the last movie where his entire operation is dead, Whistler's dead, it's all gone, right? He
yeah.
spent the past few decades moving around, and finally he's decided to resettle in a new city. There's your story.
Yep.
Yep.
Easy done.
Easy, easy, right?
And he finds a whole coven of vampires that he has to deal with.
And he's setting up, and he gets a new Whistler type. He gets maybe some helpers. The thing with Blade, though, this is a solo character. You don't
That's right.
want like that's one of the reasons the third one failed so badly is because Blade is a solo character. He's not a team guy. He's not like
Right.
that. Batman, you can put Batman in a team sometimes. You can, but not Blade. So you can have a support structure around him. Matter of fact, one of the things they did in the first movie, I wish that uh, 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 Del Toro carried over in the second movie was the girl, because they had that girl and they're trying to fix her. She's a doctor and she specializes in blood diseases. Lucky convenience. But she's useful. She should have been part of the team. They should have carried on and built the team. And she's trying to improve his
Yeah.
serum, and she's a educated extra wheel for him to or hand for him to rely on. They should have carried it on instead of just kind of refleshing everything. But yeah,
Well,
he needs to be solo.
well, here's
Right.
another thing because of their idiotic ways of handling their rights with characters. Considering that they've already screwed him up, you could have done a Blade movie where he hears about these random vampire attacks in New York, and he goes to investigate and finds one Michael Morbius.
Right? You could easily link that up. Yeah, that's true. They're very easy. But and I seem to recall, I'm not the biggest Blade expert in the world, but I seem to recall a storyline way, way back where he can't actually make children. He's sterile.
Yep.
I
Yep.
seem to recall that Blade is sterile and he can't make kids. So all of a sudden he's not. Did Doctor Strange do some hocus pocus on him? What's going on?
Zapped his balls.
Well,
Well, you know how Doctor Strange is. And if he
Uh,
were Vincent Price like he should be, he'd definitely get in on those balls. That's for damn sure.
yep. It's
But
funny you said earlier.
How do
You said
not give
earlier.
them ideas. Do not give them ideas.
You had said earlier that was this a sign of the shift? And my
I'm
answer to
curious.
that is yes, but also Feige. The only reason why someone is allegedly even the fact that this rumor exists is because the shift has already happened and Feige's under pressure. There are
Yeah,
people who are pressuring Disney, most likely shareholders, obviously, pressuring them to start making some damn money again. They haven't
right.
made money in 5 years.
Yeah, no,
Not
that
really.
it's not good. Yeah, they've lost billions, literally billions.
Yeah,
Just Disney
billion.
itself. But the thing with Kevin is he's very capable. We know he is. He just needs someone holding his leash. If someone's
Yep.
on
Is
his
he?
leash, he's actually quite capable.
Is he? Because he's, to me, I think he got a lot of credit for for the talent that was around him at the time. You had the Russo brothers. You had,
Favreau.
for better or worse, you had James Gunn. You had Favreau. You had Joss Whedon of all people. That
Favreau must just not
he
want
he
it.
he,
It's the
he
only thing I can
wasn't
think.
by himself.
That's true, but that's part of being a good manager. But no, either way, I'm curious about the shift. And even though Josh Whedon can be extremely annoying, he's made some bangers though, dude.
Yeah.
Josh has made some bangers, for damn sure. But we'll see what's going on with this. This has been a nightmare for years, dude. Years.
Yep.
Don't keep in mind their
Well,
original window for this was this year.
yes. Well, not only that, the MCU in general has just been an absolute disaster since Endgame. They've had one movie that was good, and then the rest have just
Which one
been
was that?
varying degrees of trash. Oh, the Spider-Man movie. The rest
That's
of them have been
Sony.
varying degrees of trash, and right, and most of that I would put down to Sony and the nostalgia from Sony. Um, so they haven't had in my estimation, an actually successful film since Endgame. They haven't. They've had some that have
Yeah.
made a little bit of money,
And that
but
was a
when we're
Guardian
shit
talking,
movie.
Yes, but we're
Guardians is
talking
their only
about
financial success they've had
Oh yeah, the
since
yes, when we're
Guardians one.
talking
I
Endgame.
haven't
about
seen that yet.
when we're talking about Marvel, we're talking about MCU. Just making a little bit of money isn't really a success when the entire brand is suffering. They need something to get in there, shake things up, and get the attention back that they once had. They're not going to get it necessarily to endgame levels, maybe ever again, but definitely not right away. So they're going to have to start back at ground zero, and they have to find someone who can be the linchpin. They
Speaking
got very lucky
of
with
that,
old Robert Downey Jr. Look at this. See, we're reading each other's minds today. And because they got lucky with Robert Downey Jr., they think they can go back to the well. Like what this rumor says, rumor Iron Man actor Robert Downey Jr. has agreed to return to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That'll work
they
once or
might.
twice.
Yeah,
But then what?
the
Here's
shift.
something stupid. Y'all should have never killed him off.
Never should have killed him off. That the entire I know a lot of people got all up in their feelings about it, but that was dumb. That was dumb narratively. It was dumb, a dumb decision contractually. It was dumb for your brand. You could have had him retire and go be a family man, and then if you needed him to come back, hey, we need you, Tony. Tony, this is happening. We need you.
Right.
Done. Easy.
He can at least be a linchpin, a connecting factor. But
Yeah.
you're right. The snap should have been done by Brie Larson. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Well, no, the snap should have been done by Thor. Damn it. That's who should have did it.
Well,
The
because he
first
could have
movie was
handled
all
it
about
and
Even
he
Thor.
wouldn't have died. Yeah.
Exactly.
but
The first movie was
even
all about Thor. The second movie, he got nothing but turned into a fat joke with mommy issues who had to run to his mommy for validation. And in the end, he had absolutely no closure on anything. None of
No.
it got closed in this 3-hour movie that had this whole character shift for him. It didn't get resolved in the whole movie.
Yeah. No.
So why the
They
hell
hate
was it not
Thor.
Thor?
They clearly hate Thor. Yeah, clearly. He's too
even with
masculine.
that, like me and Thunder was talking about this last week. I was watching the Silver Surfer cartoon a couple of nights ago. We didn't even get the Mad Titan of Thanos.
Right.
No.
That's true.
There
But
was a lot of meat on that bone that they just
Left.
and I know why, because
I
and
agree,
Kevin
Alan.
Feige told the world, he told the freaking world, and everybody wants to keep, for some reason, giving this dickhead the benefit of the doubt. No, he wanted to go to Marvel Now 2015. We told people before Endgame that was his end game. For whatever reason he wanted to go to this, and it's blown up in his face every fucking step of the way, which is why he's constantly pivoting. The problem is he doesn't know where to pivot to, because in spite of what people think, motherfucker's a hack. You know, people would say James Gunn's a hack. This motherfucker's a hack. It's easy to take credit
I've
for other
never
people's
said
work.
James Gunn is a hack.
I
I
have.
know, but I know a lot. Well, Thundero's not the only one who said
Jar Jar
James Gunn's a hack.
Abrams is a hack.
This motherfucker, he
I'll wear that
definitely is.
hat. I'll wear that
But
hat. Yeah, hack.
Kevin Feige, if James Gunn is a hack, this motherfucker's a Super Saiyan hack, because he immediately he jumped to the worst possible thing he could have jumped to in Marvel, clearly ignoring how badly it failed there,
Mhm.
seeing how badly it's failing here. Remember, Brie Larson was supposed to be the focus of Phase 4. Remember that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Look how hard he had to pivot away from that.
He's out here
Well,
doing plies.
In less
yeah.
than 2 years, in less than 2 years, that nigga's put a pivot on that would make Hakeem Olajuwon blush.
Wow.
It's that's how
He's ankle breaking out here.
Wow.
yeah,
Jesus.
that's how hard he had to fucking pivot
Right.
to get away from
Well,
that.
you don't understand. He
The
had to
problem,
save
but the
the
problem is
gays.
he's a
The gays
fucking
needed
hack.
saving.
Oh God.
Well, saving from what? Rooftops?
Oh,
You didn't say. You didn't
Too
save them in
future.
any of the Middle Eastern countries.
Too future.
I don't get
And you know, Alan,
But-
that is the perfect out for their Brie Larson problem, is to simply do the rogue storyline. You're right.
Yep.
and I agree, Zack Snyder is a hack as well, with his freaking zealot fans. But here's the problem: he has 2 bullets left in the gun. The problem is he's so much of a hack. He doesn't know how to fucking shoot it. All he has to do is a proper adaptation of Fantastic Four and a proper adaptation of the X-Men.
When
And
we
you
know we're
could
not getting that though.
get that's what I'm saying, because he's a fucking hack.
We're getting the
Because
Sue
this
Storm
shit
story.
otherwise that wouldn't even be bad if he told a good one. But
No,
he's
well, that's
not.
true. That is true. But I mean, they showed you very clearly what they thought of the Fantastic Four. They killed Reed Richards instantly. They killed Black Bolt instantly. In a psychic
Yeah.
battle, she
A
defeated
man
Charles
a
Xavier.
man
What?
a
Uh,
man who could level a planet with a scream got one shotted.
yeah, I
Yeah.
know.
It doesn't
It's
need to be a.
so
It doesn't even need to be a
ridiculous.
scream.
But it just that was their moment because in the end they were like, well, we're gonna have to kill her off, and that was their moment to say, take that, men. That's what that scene
Well,
was, right?
guess
Reed Richards,
like I
Ridiculous.
said,
by the way.
because he's such, like I said, this is what happens when you're a hack. Because now you got to fix this shit. And look, as cool as it is to have Downey Jr. back, and like I said, he never should have been killed off. But you're going to need more than that now.
But it's the
You
shift,
have you yes, but what are you shifting to? Because member berries have expiration dates.
right?
Yeah,
Well,
only worked so many times.
let's give an example of member berry failure, right? Now we had a series of movies, three, I believe, called The Omen.
Hmm.
Now, it's from the 70s. It might have bled into the 80s with the third one there or so, but absolute career-making movie series. Such wonderful, ultra classic as far as the feel of dread. It's a great movie. And the two that came after it weren't as good, but they make a trilogy. Now,
Mhm.
in 2006, I think. 2000 something. They tried to do a remake. Now, you can't remake that without going in with a trilogy to start with, or I guess you could truncate a bit down to two, but you have to have at least two. They did a remake. Can't remember the people that were involved in it, but if you go watch that movie, Omen 666, if you go watch that remake, it's a complete remake, right? They focus more on their early life a little bit. It's basically a copy of a full-on remake of the original movie, and it's not a bad movie. The
Yeah.
main guy playing Thorn, Ambassador Thorn, he's a bit young, too young for the role, I think. And he plays it very, very melancholy and very, very straight. He and his wife are kind of too nice. They're too sympathetic. I get that's what their intention was, but they're a little bit too sympathetic for the Thorns. And in the end, it was blasé. It's a good movie, but it was blasé, and especially because you're dealing with an ultra classic like Omen. But one of the things that a lot of people bitched about with that movie is at the very, very end, little Damien turns and looks at the camera with a serious face and then smiles. Remember? Remember? Do you remember that original movie? How
And
he did? Remember? Right?
yeah.
And it pissed people off because we know now, this is decades later, that scene with the little boy turning around and smile, he wasn't supposed to smile, but the little boy couldn't stop goofing. So they just left it in.
Yeah.
It was literally because they couldn't control the child, is why they ended him. And it's a memorable scene with the Damien looking so serious to the camera and then breaking a smile. But then, they put the member berry in there. Member, and all of the good filmmaking, because it is a solid film, is just blown away because I was like, oh, fuck you. Right? So member berries, in my opinion, are often far more dangerous than not. Like a
Mother
proper
crush.
Well, yeah, but a proper way to do member berry is kind of like in the Guardians movie where we see in the background Howard the Duck is in a cell, or
Mm.
or Cosmo, right? Or something like that. That's a member berry. That's a nostalgia wink. Something in the background. It's not a direct copy, but it's just oh, here's a little Easter egg for you. That's how you do that. James Gunn is much better at that. And you don't put it right in our face, but they keep doing it, and it's annoying.
It is. It is indeed. I think Because there's also reports that they were talking to Scarlet to come back and be the Black Widow again. They were
She's
going to somehow
super
bring them
dead.
both back. Yeah, very dead.
She's like umbrally dead.
I think they're going to find a way to bring them both back, and probably even Thanos. To be honest with you, um, because they don't have anything. What else are they going to do? We already know. I think everybody here has enough foresight to understand that the Fantastic Four is dead in the water. It's not going to succeed because they don't want it to succeed. They don't know how to make it succeed. And I bet you X-Men is too. And the reason why I bet you X-Men is too is for the exact same reason. X-Men is it's similar to Black Panther. It was political from the start to some degree, and because of that, they're not going to be able to help themselves. They're just not.
No,
They're
they won't.
going to load
And
it up
it's
so much that
unfortunate.
it'll drown.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
they're
Sue
going to
Storm.
drown out the movie.
Yeah, Sue Storm is the Wendy character. You know, the Peter Pan
Yep.
Wendy. She's the mother, right? And she's very very important, right? But the main player in Fantastic Four is Reed Richards. And if you're
Correct.
not
He's the
willing to
guy.
focus on that, it ain't gonna work. Just like the Omen film I just used as an anecdote. Um, you can't do that story by having the wife be the one who is coming to realization has deal with a problem. You can't do that
Yep.
because there is no world in which a woman kills her own kid because that's
Well, it
not
does
how
happen.
women, well, it's
I get what
not,
you
but
mean.
you know what I mean. It's not how,
Yeah.
if you make her sincere, it's not how women work. You need the father, the male, to make that decision. It just doesn't work with a woman. And Fantastic Four is a good example. It doesn't work without Reed Richards.
Correct.
Everything else is
As the
side.
father.
All of them are side. There, you know, you got comic relief and Ben. You get the wild card with Johnny, and you got the motherly wisdom with Sue. But but
Yeah.
Reed is the core of your story. It just is what it
Patriarch.
is. It's
Yeah.
like Blade. You can't do a Blade movie without Blade.
Well, Reed,
Yeah.
especially, you were talking about what they did in the the Multiverse of Madness, where Reed, for some reason, is standing in front of this what he believes to be all powerful, ominous threat, and then he just straight tells her how to beat everybody. What? That was just stupid. Reed Richards isn't stupid ever.
No, he's
In
not.
fact,
And
that is
neither is Doctor
his whole
Strange, and they made him
character.
stupid.
Exactly. That is his whole character. Is he's smarter than everybody. Reed
Yeah.
Richards should be one of your top 3, 5 guys in your Marvel Cinematic Universe, no doubt, no question.
Yeah,
Maybe even the guy.
he makes Tony look
He's
like a
the guy.
dullard.
Yes.
He's
He's the
ridiculously
smartest man
intelligent.
in existence.
Matter of fact,
And
the only one I could say that would be compared to him would be Pym.
yes. And my point is, we know because of their agendas, they're not going to let Reed be that.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Reed should be the guy to take Tony's place. Since they fucked up Spider-Man so much that Peter can't do it, Reed should be the guy to take Tony's place as the central figure of the MCU. Because when Marvel was good, about 25 years ago, Reed was one of the central guys
Well, there's
in Marvel.
so much connective tissue with him.
Yes,
Yeah.
he is
Yeah, Marvel's first family.
Hmm.
yeah, exactly. He should be one of your central pillars of your entire storyline. He can go anywhere. He's versatile character because he's so smart. And because of that, he makes himself central, kind of like Xavier can too,
Hmm.
depending on the story.
Right.
Uh, and they've lost that now though, and they don't have any way of getting it back. Tony Stark can do it as well because he's so damn smart. Uh, so they're going to try and lean on bringing Tony back, but if they do it where it's still this same bullshit of all the women have to shine and the men have to flounder, it's not going to work. The reason why Tony worked so well is they let Robert Downey Jr. be charismatic. They let him steal the show. They let him be the center of attention.
Right.
Because if you don't allow your main character, which is what Tony basically was, to do that, nothing's going to work. There's a reason called the main character. Reed could be that. There's no reason Reed Richards couldn't be that for Marvel, the MCU,
Right.
except the fact that Disney and Marvel not that they don't know how to create proper male heroes and write them well and intelligently. They know how to do it. They're just not going to do it. They're going
Yeah,
to
unless
refuse to
we're
do it.
in the real shift though. if there's a
Yeah,
real
that
shift
this
coming.
will be the one. That'll
Yeah,
be the one.
yeah,
How does Reed come off? Do
yeah,
they get Reed right? If they get Reed right or close to right, real close, like they did Tony, they really get close with it, or they give us a performance that kind of changes Reed for the better. And I don't mean
yeah.
politically. I mean like Robert Downey Jr. did with Tony. Brings him to a level of prominence he hasn't had for a
Who
very long time as a character.
who
If they
would
do that, they could have a new golden age or whatever you want to call it for the MCU. They could bring it back, but I don't know. Your question, who they're going to get to do
who
that?
could you pick to
I don't
play Reed Richards? You need a really top end actor.
know. Yes, you would. You need somebody who has the chops. You have to find somebody who looks the part because another reason why Robert Downey Jr. worked is he looked enough the part. Uh, you have to have somebody who has the same gravitas that a Reed Richards commands that can portray that and project that. And they have to have, and in looking the part, they have to be built like Reed. It'd be very unlikely you're going to get a guy who isn't built similar to Reed Richards, that lanky build that he has,
Mm.
and have them pull this off.
Yeah,
Yes, we got Hugh Jackman and Wolverine, and that was great, but that was because Hugh Jackman embodied the spirit of what made Wolverine great, the ferocity,
yeah, he
right?
really got into it. Yeah.
Yeah, and Reed's a different beast.
well,
So I don't know. That's a tough question.
well, we don't
Who could be Reed
necessarily
Richards?
have to have a Fantastic Four origins. We could have a
Right.
older Fantastic Four. We could do a movie
Good.
that is based on the what's their that academy they put together.
Oh, you're asking me questions.
I can't remember the name of it. It's on the
Future
tip of my tongue.
Foundation.
The Future Foundation. Thank you. We could get a
Yes.
Future Foundation film, and they're
Yeah.
more background, and use him to kind of create your new phase, as he's this
Yep.
background guy that's trying to organize all the new superpowered people that have come out since the since of all the nonsense of Phase One, and he's a guy that's comes from the '60s. He's a much older guy, and he's just trying to organize and push it forward. You know what I mean?
Yeah. 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 I
I mean,
agree with you.
yeah,
You could do that. I like the idea that somebody put up where they do a set piece in the '60s,
yep,
and then
you could do
somehow,
that.
some way they get Captain America and then brought to the modern world. Or they're just old,
Just
and when
time.
we finally meet up with them, yeah,
Yeah,
maybe they got lost in
they are
time or something. I don't know,
science. Well,
whatever.
not even. They're just science based.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But it doesn't matter. They'll screw it up no matter what. They've already told
Yeah.
us
They're
we're
gonna
getting
rip it
Sue
apart.
Storm the
Apart.
story. So
And
all
I
right.
still say they keep teasing that they've been talking to our boy Henry Cavill to come in and be something in the MCU. I think it's a waste if he's not Doom. I think he'd be a perfect Doom.
He
I
would
think he
be.
would
Just put a
kill
little
Doctor
teeny
Doom.
scar on the left cheek, just a little one.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
perfect.
Yep.
Because he's not disfigured, everybody. He literally is
No.
so vain that a single little teeny scar sets him off.
Well, if you were that
That's the
pretty, you'd
point.
understand.
That's true. I probably would. But this right here is our last bit for today. I'm okay with time because I've already taken my shower and all that kind of stuff. But this is once again kind of looking at the shift. Now, this is connected to the whole Gina Carano debacle that's going on again. Go ahead.
Yep. HBO and Max CEO Casey Bloys, there's a name, admits and apologizes for using Troll Army to target critics. Now, Chester, if you remember,
Yeah.
years ago, I got a little bit of backlash, not so much on here, but in a different places,
Uh-huh.
for informing the world that these exist.
Yeah. Well, you
Because
should go to
people, for
Tumblr. I
some
told you
reason,
that.
didn't
Um,
believe that paid shill armies exist. They
these are
absolutely
bots.
do.
Keep that in mind. These are bots. We're
They're
talking
bots,
about
but they
bots.
also have ones that they use. They use people too.
Yeah. Sure.
Um, and these absolutely exist. They're real. Politicians use them too, especially when they're running campaigns. This is a real thing that exists in the world. There are people who are paid to tell you whatever group is paying them's narrative and pretend like it's a
Mhm.
normal comment in a YouTube video or Facebook post or whatever.
Right.
That's real. That exists.
It does.
Anyway,
And keep in mind that Gino was popping on this, Gina Carano, and it was a lot of noise going up. And we do have from Culture Casino, he has some inside information that there's a bunch of emails that have been gotten between Kathleen Kennedy and her team, and they show an absolute disgusting disregard for us, right?
yeah, they
Yeah,
hate
of
So
us.
course.
the consumer, right?
They hate them.
And so that's going to be popping, and this is all coming out of Gino banging at them again. And it's very interesting that this guy has come out right in front of it and said, "Yeah, we did it. We apologize." Using these bots to any critic that says to bang them down.
Yep.
Sorry, my bad. But isn't it interesting? This guy came out of nowhere and has admitted this.
He's
Yes,
probably
because he
trying
was
to get out
probably
in
going to
front
get
of a
sued.
lawsuit.
Maybe.
Uh,
Yeah,
these bots aren't illegal technically, but you could make a very strong case for fraud,
you could.
and
Yeah,
that would be interesting. That'd be an interesting legal discussion for judges and courts to decide. But it should be illegal. There's no reason this should be like this is obviously market manipulation, and it shouldn't be tolerated.
yeah.
But we don't. I don't think there's law unless I'm wrong, because there's a billion laws in America, but I don't think there's laws on the books for something like this. There should be, but where our country's run by a bunch of people who should be in old folks' homes, uh, so they don't even understand what's a roundabout, and I don't know how those work. Oh, jeez, Chester, I'm gonna go a little rant real quick.
Oh, sure.
So, anybody, if you're old, if you're a person of substantial age and you're
Yes.
still driving,
Hands up. Yeah.
please please, for the love of God, learn how to work a roundabout. Just just figure it out. It isn't complicated. Today we're driving down the road and some old person just stops right in the middle because she was confused that other cars had to yield to her. She thought she had to stop, so she just stopped right in the middle.
Oh
Just right in
wow.
the middle of the roundabout, held up everybody. People are honking at her. She's confused. I'm like, I don't. Why? Why does this perplex you? You have been
What?
driving longer than I've been alive. Why do you not understand how yield signs
Yeah,
work?
but
What is the problem?
but roundabouts are really easy.
It's the easiest thing in the world. In fact, it can't be any easier than this. I don't
Yeah.
know.
It's just
It's
a
a very
circle
serious
spilling
problem over
off.
here. It's a
Wow.
very serious
That's
problem over here.
weird.
There are so
It's
many
so
old
simple.
people who just their brains can't. They don't. It's like you're showing them Greek. They're gone. They can't figure it out.
Well,
I
maybe
I, I
they
don't
shouldn't
know.
be driving if they're that far gone. I mean, a
I agree.
roundabout is very simple. I mean, it
Yeah.
literally just spills you out. It's quite a clever solution to a problem,
Just
actually.
just stop if someone's coming. If no one's coming, then don't stop. I don't.
Yeah,
What's the dilemma?
it is weird.
But these
Well,
people.
because the roundabout has been used to replace the four-way stop
Yeah.
system, right? To make the traffic flow. They put roundabouts in places where traffic is backing up, and they use it to move traffic quicker. But it's just
Yep.
a place. Yeah, it's very weird.
Anyway, back to the troll army. I would say that's probably what it is. He was probably just doing it to prevent any kind of one. It's PR move, but also just in case
Yeah.
there's some data that comes out that they used it heavily this way or that way on a certain website or whatever. Those websites might not take too kindly to that. Some of them
No, and
might not.
he's
And
throwing Kathleen Kennedy deep under the bus.
way under that, kicking her. In fact, right
Yeah.
under that sucker.
Right.
Good. She deserves it.
You know,
Absolutely and utterly.
but yeah. Now, so like I said, we've been seeing it for a little while, but we're seeing a lot of things that seem to be shifting back in favor of money, and I'm in
Yep.
favor of money.
Me too.
Yeah, I'm
Me
pro
too.
money. I don't really personally care about it myself, but I understand the power that it has. And it's simply about that thing I was talking about earlier, free market, supply and demand. And we've
Yep.
allowed these governments to meddle in economics so deeply that it's absolutely shattered any kind of balanced economics you could ever hope to have. There's a reason why any economist you talk to will tell you the benefits of free market. Now, they might suggest some more complex thing that they think is better, but any economist that has any value to their opinion whatsoever will tell you the power of it. And we've completely obliterated it because everything is micromanaged now. And that's exactly beyond the point. You should not be
Thanks,
allowed to
Lincoln.
micromanage economy.
You
Uh,
honestly, I know people don't want to hear it. This is a broad topic, but I'm going to put the bullet right where it belongs. Thanks, Abraham Lincoln, because it started largely there. Whether
yeah,
people like it or not,
that's fair.
if you if you want to have a free market economy, you have to allow for things like slavery in it. Now, I'm not advocating slavery. Slavery is abhorrent. I'm just saying that would be a free market. And the reality is our market still has slavery. We just outsourced it. That's all we did.
We did.
And it's it. We
Yeah.
didn't get rid of it. We just said, we'll put it over here. Nobody cares about over here. We'll put it over here. That's
Yeah.
what we did.
And do keep in mind that with that particular, that wasn't my point, but with that point, um, that we saw the market responding to slavery just in America, right? Now,
Correct.
a lot of people don't understand this. If you compare to the amount of slaves that the Muslims took out of Africa via African kingdoms, selling them to them, and then the European involvement in it, the amount of slaves that were brought to America were minuscule in comparison.
Yes.
Minuscule.
Correct.
We're talking tens of millions compared to 250,000 sold in America. And yes, that is the number, right?
Correct.
We had an equal amount of indentured servants sent over from Britain, get rid of these unwanted, unwashed Irish,
Well, have
right?
you seen the Irish?
It's fair.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, my mother's family. But
My wife,
nevertheless,
by the way.
uh, your wife, by the way. But the thing with that is that in the North, and many other places, slavery was pushed out pretty quickly. It came
Yep.
in, but as the settlers and the home communities really were against it because these are families, they're not business people per se. Right.
Correct.
In the South was affected because it was under control of the French, and of course the Spanish as well. And them coming to the Americas wasn't like the settlers. They weren't settlers. They were initially a military incursion, and then later became a business factory setup, right? That's what was going
Yes.
on. And the British touched on it a little bit too in Florida. They tried to play that game as well. But in the North, in what we call the Union, well, I guess it's all the Union, but you know what I mean. The original colonies, they were actual settlers. They
Correct.
weren't, businessmen come over to make big money like down in Virginia and stuff. So their take on it was very, very different. It wasn't business minded; it was family minded, and this is why slavery was so quickly forced and pushed out of the North. Where in the South it thrived because it was built. It's not built on a settler community; it was built on a factory community, and settlers came in later. So it's a really good look at at how people think and work because supply and demand and free market in a family community doesn't allow things like slavery, but in a
Correct.
raw military based business type community it does, right? And we see
Well,
this with Islam as well.
there were whole states in the North that never had slavery at all.
Oh yeah.
It was
Mm,
outlawed day one. Uh, because at one they didn't need it at all. And the reality of the South was as you alluded to, they were starting not to need it too.
mhm.
The industry of farming was becoming far more industrial, and it just simply didn't. The human factor was becoming an issue. It was too expensive, to be honest. Whereas, what would take a slave all day, some of these newfangled tractors could do very, very quickly
Sure.
comparatively.
Yeah, no.
And
There's, once again, free market, right? But in the North, most of the slaves, big air quotes, were indentured servants from Ireland, right?
yes,
And of course, I come from Rhode Island, and the actual proper name of Rhode Island is Rhode Island and Providence Plantations. But those
yes,
weren't black people working those plantations; those were Irish. And a matter of fact, in the North, when you saw a black person, they were just a landowner farming or fishing or whatever. There were black people, but they weren't
sure,
slaves. They were just people that migrated over, like all the Europeans did. It was quite different. And it's like I said, because it's a family community, it's a settler. And keep in mind, before the British started really paying attention to the colony and say, "Oh, well, there might be some money over there," and came over and started, causing all the trouble they caused. For the first 100 years, the settlers and the Native Americans got along really well.
Yeah, there was very little
There was
problems.
hardly any difficulty until the British government decided, like, and paid
Fucking
attention to
Brits.
it.
Every
And
time with them Brits and their hose on their legs. That
right.
these ah,
But then within, 50 years of that and the nonsense of dealing with the French and their Indian allies, the settlers were like, yeah, this is shit. And they started pushing back. Keep in mind, the Civil War, excuse me, the Revolutionary War did not happen in a vacuum. It didn't come out of nowhere. It didn't just like one day they got taxes and like, oh, we don't like these taxes. Let's go throw tea in dress like Indians in the Boston Harbor. That's not even close. It was decades leading up to that, decades
correct.
of irritation from these the British, just because they built this land, and the British just all of a sudden started caring about it and send all these British lords in and start doing whatever the hell they wanted. The Americans were pissed at the actual imperialism of the British, and of course that's also when a lot of the banging against the Indians took place. And then after, when the American government was actually formed, now you have an actual government, and oh shit, now you got problems, right? Because when
Pretty
it
much, yeah.
comes, well, when it comes to Native Americans, that's when they really started suffering. When especially after the Civil War, when the things were unified, we're all Americans again, and then they just started smashing Indians' heads.
Well, they had to kill somebody.
Yeah, I
They
suppose.
got
Yeah,
tired of killing each other, so they went out and sent the bastards from the war out west to handle that because it's funny, we went right back to this. These beautiful liberal democracies always somehow rely on the bastard men to do all the actual work. Funny how that is, because
yeah.
when they needed that West conquered, they didn't send a bunch of academics. They didn't send poets or scholars. They sent bastards to go
Yeah,
get
they
it
did.
done.
Real bastards. Yeah, yeah.
Oh
Hell yeah.
yeah,
Some
and they
ugly
got
ass
it done.
shit. And they did get it
They
done.
got it done.
They did. Yeah. It's unfortunate, but anyway, read your histories.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's about it for today. I do need to go to work here in a couple minutes, so I got to wrap it up. But I'm curious because we've been talking about it for a while, and I'm wondering if we're actually seeing the beginning of the shift. I mean, really, right?
Well, I've been saying it for years that it would be 2022 to 2024 is when you'll see the shifting really start to happen, really take place. And I think that's exactly what we're seeing. Now, I in fairness, a lot of people are saying, "Oh, this is it's just a farce, right? It's just, to try and get people back in." Absolutely. That's what it is right now. But here's the problem with that tactic is it doesn't work. People see through it, and as soon as people realize, "Oh, this was a farce," it'll fall back apart. So they're either going to shift back to what the public all around, not just the American public, the global public wants, or they're going to die. It's that simple. There's no middle ground here, if ands or buts about it. The market has spoken. The market wants good quality, simple films that tell good quality, simple stories or something to that degree. They don't want a bunch of political nonsense in every fucking thing. They don't want to watch Luke Skywalker suck titty milk out of a weird alien creature.
No. Yeah, what a
Nobody wants
freaking
to see this stuff.
damn Jar Jar,
Oh, such a mess.
Ryan Johnson, all these dickheads. But fair enough. Now, I'm kind of wondering, Grimlock, do you think this, what's happening in the Middle East, in Israel, what's new, right? But the response from around the world and all of these, the UN, how actually disgusting it is. Of course, any real American's been saying that for decades. And, how many stand with Palestine assholes we see coming out of the works. Do you think that, oddly, this event in Israel might well help push the shift?
No,
Hmm?
at least in this particular instance, I would say no because there's already too much propaganda as it is. You have too many ill-informed people who've already have an opinion on something that, quite frankly, is I would say they only say that because there's no danger near their door.
Oh,
It's
well,
easy
that's
to say
always
shit
true.
like, you
That
know,
is always true. Yeah.
it's easy to say free Palestine when Palestine ain't next door. Um,
Well,
no, in this case, I don't think it is because while people was, you know, whenever they want, like, you know, they had that shooting in Maine over the weekend, and it just so happened that that shooting happened to coincide with the United States sending about 1,000 troops over there.
did they catch that guy? Last
So,
I heard, he was still running about.
allegedly caught with a single shot to his head.
Oh, really?
So,
Yeah,
Okay, so they
yeah.
did catch
yeah,
him.
that it seemed awfully convenient. That's all I'm gonna
Oh,
say.
yeah, no, they found him in a garbage can, I think, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Well, all
Somebody
right.
either he took care of himself or somebody took care of him and then deposited him in a dumpster.
Interesting. But I do need to wrap it up, so I'll let Grimlock speak in a minute, though. But I would say, just for all of these morons out there, let's think about this: of how greedy and selfish Islam is. They have taken so much of the world, so much land, but they cannot even tolerate for a second that some little group of Jews has a sliver of land on the Mediterranean Sea. A sliver. All that land they've taken, all the rape, murder, death that they've brought down for the past 1,000 years, and all the territory they've taken, they can't even for a second have enough wherewithal to let these people have this sliver of land. How fucking selfish. Greedy bastards. Anyway, go ahead, Grimlock. Give your final word.
Well, you're speaking about enlightenment, and that requires a enlightened mind, or a mind who is at least willing to be enlightened. So, the unfortunate truth is that we don't have but so many minds who are enlightened, and we have a staggering number of minds who are unwilling to be enlightened. They're more willing to be emotional. And as I've said before, you can't reason with emotional people.
No.
And as our boy Sandaro says, if can't think, you got to feel. So
Y-
there's going to be a lot of feeling going on for these people, unfortunately.
Yeah, I hope it comes back hard on them. Thunder takes out of here, man.
I do one I don't think I've ever done on here before, Chester. It's a little bit long, but I'll go through it fast. Oh, keep it. Keep your scholars, your nobles, and your kings. Give me the vulgar, the bastard, and the base. I'll take those curs. Find me the true nature of mankind, and I will show you the heart of an outlaw. Not those vaunted halls and titles. The truth is, we belong in the mud and the muck, scratching and clawing and biting and bleeding and fighting. Fighting for every instant, every moment of our little existence in this forsaken world. That is the truth. Give me the lowly ones, the base-born folk, and whoever else vulgar enough to be in the dirt, for they are the only true people left.
Namaste. Sounds like Mark Twain. Later, everybody.